Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. One Piece, start as a mythical beast, practice to become stronger. Chapter 41 Your Name. Among a group of slaves dressed in gorgeous clothes, there was a beautiful woman who stood out. She was locked in a glass ball filled with water. Her skin was white and gleaming, and there was a layer of soft blue silk on her head. Her eyes were charming and her long tail swayed gently. She was actually a mermaid girl. Jin An's heart was shocked, but he quickly calmed down. He didn't expect that there would be mermen at this auction. He looked at the scene in front of him thoughtfully. So, the celestial dragon outside came here after receiving news from the mermaid? The mermaid had been tied up there, her eyes revealing her desire for freedom and helplessness, but Jinan did not focus too much on the beautiful mermaid. After breaking the glass cover with his finger gun, he opened the cell without discrimination. Then he left here, and he still had to untie these people. Without the restraint of the glass cover, the mermaid took a deep breath of air. Although the air smelled bad, she still enjoyed it. She swam freely in the water, and then, with the support of her hands, as her tail lightly glided across the water, she left the water that she had been unable to escape from, broke free from the restraints, and headed towards freedom. The mermaid looked at Jinan with gratitude, expressing her gratitude in a silent way. Jinan did a good thing and felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. He always acted according to his own ideas. He could do anything as long as he could make his ideas flow. He released these slaves just to allow them to live freely and choose their own lives. As for the safety of these people after they were released, Jinan had no control over it. You are so weak, just go behind me. But. No buts, get out of here. Or I'll break your legs. The order of queuing is the order in which the collars will be removed. In order to get rid of the life threat as quickly as possible, many people began to have evil thoughts. Hearing the discordant voices coming from the crowd in the queue, Jinan's brows instantly frowned. It's not that he couldn't understand the thoughts of such people, but understanding does not mean agreement. He remembered the troublemaker and those who had the same idea. The people behind pulled the girl who was cut in line and signaled her to hold it in. Don't mess with him, we can't compete with him. We were all captured here. Why is he still bullying us like this? The girl was puzzled. They were all people who had been in prison together, but I didn't expect that they would start bullying others before they even escaped from this hellish den. This world doesn't care about we're all in this together. People here will do anything to survive. Little girl, I will remember you. Just wait for me when you get out. Under Jinan's gaze, the man said a harsh word and ran away dejectedly. It's very dangerous for you to do this. Remember. Run away quickly after you get out. That person must be holding a grudge against you. The person behind the girl reminded. The girl stood there blankly. She didn't know what she had done wrong. Her father had always told her to be polite and obey the law since she was a child. She has always done this, but why was she caught here? Why was that person so fierce? Why? Jinan began to untie these people. The design of this collar is not complicated. By studying the ones on dragons' necks, you've already mastered the essentials. Although there are a lot of people here, it doesn't take much time to get it done after getting familiar with it. Those who had their collars removed remained where they were. It was not that they did not want to leave, but that they were not aware of the situation outside and did not dare to leave. You can go now. Jinan continued to finish the task at hand. He had taken care of the last few people. But, the guards outside. As for the guards, they are all gone. According to the perception of observation Haki, only a few people in the auction hall were still alive. A man who was a little braver walked out of the area where slaves were held cautiously, and when he found there was no danger, he ran out quickly. 2 minutes later, the man ran back, and the excitement on his face could not be concealed. Guys, we can go now. The guards outside are gone. After hearing what the man said, those who were still hesitating stopped talking and ran straight to the exit, fearing that something unexpected might happen if they ran too slowly. When everyone had almost run away, Jinan looked at the last person in front of him and said, You are the last one. Be careful when you get out. Don't get caught by the traffickers again. Excuse me, can you tell me your name? The mermaid who stayed at the end looked at the person who saved her, with expectation shining in her eyes. Fearing that the other party might have concerns, she continued, My name is Serena, and I run a cafe on Fishman Island. Do you know what it means if I smash this auction house? Jinan asked back. Serena thought for a moment and replied, you will become a thorn in the side of the auction house and their backstage. Jinan rolled his eyes and said teasingly, you still asked me my name even though you knew it. Do you want to use my name to make money? Serena was so anxious that tears were about to come out. She said aggrievedly, I didn't mean that. I just really want to know your name. This man saved her life and also left a deep mark in her heart. Although they might never meet again, after knowing his name, at least she knew who saved her. Jinan looked at the beautiful mermaid in front of him and felt a little sad. He didn't expect that after saving so many people, she was the only one who was willing to ask his name. Jinan. Jinan said his own name. Although mermaids hate humans, they attach great importance to credibility, so it's no big deal to say his real name. Moreover, he has a certain liking for the mermaid who runs a coffee shop. 20 years later, the people on Mermaid Island give Jinan a good impression. They are loyal and helpful. Moreover, the shop owner and the woman in front of him were both blue shark mermaids, so perhaps they were related. Maybe when I pass by Fishman Island in the future, I can ask Shirley to tell my fortune for free. Unfortunately, Shirley seems to be not born yet, otherwise it would be a nice trip to Fishman Island now. I will remember your life-saving grace for the rest of my life. When you get to Fishman Island, please come find me at the cafe. I will do my best to be your host. After Selena bowed to Jinan, she leaned forward and rested her head on Jinan's legs, waiting for him to remove the shackles for her. Jinan saw the location of the collar clearly, skillfully removed it from Selena's neck, and then coughed lightly. So fast. Selena blushed and gently moved her head away. Jinan touched his nose and said, the air here is not good, let's go out first. You go out first. Selena looked at her tail, I'll go out later. Jinan also found that it was inconvenient for the mermaid to move on land, but it was not safe to leave her here alone. Let me take you out. Jinan gritted his teeth and squatted down to ask Selena. Selena opened her arms and wrapped them around Jinan's neck, curling up in his arms. A whisper as thin as a mosquito's hum was uttered. Well, please. Chapter 42 Captain of the Golden Lion 6. Am I seeing things? Doflamingo rubbed his eyes. How come that guy went there and came back with a woman in his arms? Longjai opened his mouth wide, could that be a mermaid? He had never seen a mermaid in his life, and the first time he saw one was when he was held in Jinan's arms. Mermaids are born extremely beautiful and are often targeted by human traffickers. Fishmen are also loved by slave owners because of their strong bodies, which leads to the relationship between mermaids, fishmen, and humans being difficult to reconcile. This makes it difficult to see them in crowded places. A hero saves the beauty, they said in unison. Dragon looked at Doflamingo and suddenly asked, I heard that the celestial dragons gather all the wealth in the world, but why do you seem to have never seen a mermaid? Doflamingo. The celestial dragons who stayed behind to watch the fun were preparing to leave. After all, the fun here was over and there was no point in staying any longer. Mermaid, it's a mermaid. But just as he reached the exit, he saw the mermaid in Jinan's arms and immediately shouted loudly. Others may not know, but his identity naturally means that he knows what the most attractive slaves are at this auction. In order to make money, someone leaked the news that there would be mermaids for sale at this auction, but he just forgot about it while watching the fun. Now that he had seen the purpose of this trip, he naturally chose to snatch her away. Go and bring that mermaid to me. Saint Lasgard pointed his fat finger at the mermaid in Jinan's arms and ordered. Also, just kill that guy. I don't like trash touching my belongings. Saint Lasgard felt very uncomfortable when he saw the man holding the mermaid. Coupled with the bad things that happened at the auction, he was very angry now. To him, the mermaid is his toy. How dare a lowly person reach out and touch God's private property? This is disrespectful to God. Damn it! The golden-haired Saint Lasgard cursed in a domineering manner. CP2 had no objection, as it was their duty to absolutely obey the orders of the celestial dragons. They rushed out immediately after hearing the order. What the hell are you looking at? All of you get out of here! Saint Lasgard pointed at the nose of the guard next to him and cursed. The guards were a little hesitant. Their job was to protect the safety of the celestial dragons at all costs. But Saint Lasgard, what about your safety if we all leave? Lasgard Saint smiled confidently and said, there are only us and those 3 untouchables here. They are the ones we should worry about. I am a world noble celestial dragon. In a bad mood, he kicked the guard in front of him to the ground and signaled others with his eyes to do what he told them to do quickly. As the subordinates of the celestial dragons, they are a group of cruel and cold-blooded people. All they care about is power and loyalty, and they simply disdain unknown people like Jinan. Since it is your order, we will definitely obey it. These guards finally chose to obey the orders of the celestial dragons and took action immediately. It seems that people near the celestial dragons are going to attack Jinan. Long was a little anxious. The celestial dragons had control over the navy, and he was worried that Jinan would be treated badly. Doflamingo looked like he was enjoying a good show, gloating, "It looks like he's in trouble. It's not a good thing to be targeted by those idiots." Now, in his eyes, the identity of a celestial dragon has no appeal anymore. What he wants is to surpass those fools who only know how to eat, drink and have fun, and to trample them under his feet and humiliate them at will. Although Long didn't know Doflamingo's identity, he was still very curious about his attitude towards Jinan and the celestial dragons. Through the contact during this period, he felt that this child seemed to have grown up crooked and looked fearless. "Let's go help Jinan." Seeing Jinan being surrounded by those people, he wanted to join in the fun. Doflamingo held up his hand to stop the dragon. "We are now slaves, and slaves dare not displease the celestial dragons. Besides, don't you want to see Jinan's attitude towards the Tianlong people?" Doflamingo's words echoed in Long's ears like the whisper of a devil. Did he want to know Jinan's attitude towards the celestial dragons? After thinking for a moment, Long came to the conclusion that he wanted to. After this period of understanding, he understood more clearly what kind of strange existence the celestial dragons are. If he were asked to make a choice, he would definitely stand against the celestial dragons. When Jinan and his friends were surrounded by the celestial dragons' men, Selena realized that her presence might bring more danger to the protagonist. She knew that her beauty and race had always attracted the attention of the celestial dragons, so she decided to sacrifice herself to allow the protagonist to escape. "Put me down and leave," Selena whispered in Jinan's ear, "they are only interested in me. Let me go, and you will definitely be able to escape." Jinan glanced at the mermaid in his arms. "Do you think I am a coward?" "Of course you're not," Selena retorted. "If you were that kind of person, I'd still be in jail waiting to be auctioned off." She glanced at the celestial dragons in the distance and said, "Then I will eventually fall into the hands of the celestial dragons. I just don't want you to get hurt. You are the best human being I have ever met in my life. No, not just among humans, you are the best person in the entire world. I dare to come here, of course I am prepared for the worst." Jinan smiled slightly. "My safety is not threatened by these people, so you can rest assured. I always keep my word. Just wait for me to take you to the beach." Jinan's words were full of determination and firmness. He would definitely do what he was determined to do, and even the coming of Jesus could not change his mind. Serena felt the protagonist's determination and warmth, and a warm feeling surged in her heart. In this dangerous world, she finally found someone who was truly willing to give everything for her. She closed her eyes silently, snuggled deeply in the protagonist's arms, feeling the sense of security and protection he gave her. "I'll listen to you." At this moment, Jinan suddenly roared throughout the auction house. "Do you know who I am? I'm a pirate with a bounty of 2 million berries, Jack. Now you are the captain of the 6th ship of the flying pirates under Golden Lion. Have you thought about the price of attacking me?" Everyone in the auction house came to a standstill, staring in amazement at the man holding the mermaid. Long and Doflamingo's jaws almost dropped to the ground. They had never seen anyone as shameless as Jin A, and Jin Lion was just sitting at home and the pot was thrown from the sky. Selena raised her head cutely and blinked her watery eyes, just in time to see the sly smile on Jinan's lips. "He's so bad, but it feels good." Chapter 43 I and number 039. Am not satisfied yet. Golden Lion. The Celestial Dragon's men and CP2 are well aware of the weight of this name, and if possible, they absolutely do not want to have anything to do with that person. Shiki the Golden Lion is the user of the float fruit, a floating man who can make himself or objects fly in the air, thus earning him the nickname Flying Pirate. Captain of the Flying Pirates, Admiral of the Golden Lion Pirate Fleet, was a great pirate who was once as famous as Gold Roger and Edward Whitebeard Newgate. He possessed 2 famous swords, Sakura Ten and Deadwood. Because of his flying ability, he can carry out various types of attacks, so many forces will not provoke him. They whispered to each other, not sure whether to become an enemy of the man in front of them. "Come on! A mere Golden Lion can't threaten me. Saint Lasgard was so angry when he saw his men stop attacking that his nose was crooked. He didn't know who the Golden Lion was. He only knew that his parents had told him since he was a child that no one could threaten them, the celestial dragons, and if there was anyone, that person should disappear. Bah, they are all garbage. He didn't expect these useless things that could only be used to guard the house to succeed. Anyway, there was CP2 here who could take action. These guys were just making up the numbers. Saint Lasgard's eyes were always fixed on Selena. The greed and possessiveness in his eyes made Selena feel uncomfortable all over and she licked her lips subconsciously. Mine, all mine. Selena's pupil shrank, and she crawled into Jinan's arms with some fear, her body shaking uncontrollably. Jinan had an expression that said as expected. The world's nobles, the celestial dragons, had unparalleled power in the world. If they gave up just because of a title, they would not be like them. If you are not afraid of death, come over here. I don't care who you are. CP2 and the guards slowly approached Jinan, with murderous gleams in their eyes. Boom! As their steps got closer, the next moment, CP2 members launched an attack almost at the same time. The powerful force gathered in their hands, and the palm that could split boulders slapped towards Jinan's head. As soon as the CP0 members took action, they showed excellent tacit understanding and directly blocked all the roots of Jinan, making it difficult to make a decision. Jinan remained calm in the face of these attacks. He simply held Selena in his arms, ready to use his body to withstand these attacks. Don't bother me. Selena saw Jinan using his body to block the attack for her, her eyes turned red uncontrollably, and she shouted at the top of her lungs. Jinan glanced at her and thought to himself, I can take these attacks head on and be fine, but it may not be the case for you. Boom! The palm hit Jinan, and a low muffled sound rang out in the auction house. At the moment the attack hit, the expressions of CP2 and others who had originally looked relaxed changed slightly. The feedback from the other person's body made their palms hurt slightly, and what shocked them the most was that the other person slowly stood up as if nothing had happened. This guy is not easy to deal with, don't hold back. From the initial contact, CP2 members realized that Jinan's strength was much higher than theirs. However, the opponent seemed to be holding someone, and in the life and death fight, he was unable to actively counterattack them. Take my stick. The burly man wearing a mask exuded murderous aura. He waved a thick wooden stick and rushed towards Jinan, roaring. His eyes were full of fanaticism and violence, as if he wanted to crush Jinan into pieces. The other man was holding a long sword, his cold eyes revealing ruthlessness and determination. He did not hesitate to launch a fierce attack on Jinan together with the man with the stick. The attacks of the two men approached Jinan almost instantly, carrying enormous force, directly targeting the vital points, with no intention of holding back at all. At the same time, the masked man with a strange and agile figure, a cunning and sinister look in his eyes, holding a sharp dagger, and walking briskly, like a cunning fox, quietly went around behind Jinan, as if he wanted to give him a fatal blow. Facing the fierce and vicious attack from the three people, Jinan stomped on the ground hard, his body instantly rushed into the air, looking down at the three people. The three men's attacks missed and they looked up in astonishment at the two figures in the air. They did not see the other party's movements clearly at all. But their astonishment did not last long and soon turned into roars of pain. Ah! What have you done? CP2's hand holding the weapon fell to the ground, and blood spurted out from the broken arm onto the ground, dyeing the surroundings blood red. Jinan retracted his thigh that he had kicked out. I see you are too tired holding the weapons, your forehead is sweating, I will help you lighten the burden. How dare you? We are CP2. In order to avoid excessive blood loss, they covered their bleeding arms and kept backing away. Seeing that the three men wanted to retreat, Jinan's eyes flashed, and he suddenly took 2 steps forward. With his legs off the ground, he kicked the 3 men in the chest as fast as lightning. Boom! 3 human-shaped holes appeared in 3 directions on the auction house's wall. The voices of CP2 and others became smaller and smaller until they disappeared. The other celestial dragon guards who were watching on the side turned their heads upon hearing the noise, and then with twitching lips they saw 3 large holes in the wall and the broken hands scattered on the ground. Okay, it's your turn. After dealing with the 3 trash, Jinan was in a good mood and glanced at the guards around him. One person challenged 3 powerful CP0s alone and beat them so hard that they had no ability to fight back. The man in front of him was not someone that ordinary guards like them could deal with. Thinking of this, the guards regretted it so much that they could not help but kneel down and beg for mercy. The strength of this man made it impossible for them to even think of resisting. Go to hell! You ignorant bastard! In the desperate eyes of the guards kneeling on the ground, Saint Lasgard grinned and pulled the trigger. Boom! Flames spewed from the muzzle of the gun, and bullets streaked through the air, leaving beautiful trajectories in the sky. The auction hall fell into deathly silence. Everyone stared with wide eyes, staring at the bullets. At that moment, it seemed as if time had frozen. Everyone in the auction hall held their breath, watching whether it would hit Jin An's body. A cold shot. Under the gaze of everyone, Jin An stretched out his hand, as if time froze at this moment. The guard's eyes widened, and one could almost hear their held breath. He twisted his fingers lightly, as if plucking the strings of a guitar, and accurately caught the bullet that was shot at him, then threw it to the ground nonchalantly. Catching a bullet with bare hands. The guards' faces were filled with shock and despair. Their last hope was completely shattered. They had thought that the bullet would be a lethal weapon, but now it became a deadly threat to themselves. The bullet was their last hope, hoping that this shot could defeat the man holding the mermaid, but the reality was so cruel. They realized that this man not only possesses amazing strength and calmness, but also seems to have mysterious powers beyond the ordinary, which completely defeats their plan. Jin An's eyes were still as calm as water. That's it. Give me some more, I'm not satisfied yet. Chapter 44 Pigs. Damn it! Who the hell are you? Veins bulged on Saint Lasgard's forehead, his face became hideous and distorted, anger and fear coexisted in his heart, and uneasiness was quietly rising in his heart. The armed forces that protected his safety had long been kicked away to who knows where, and now the only thing that could bring him a sense of security was his identity as a celestial dragon. Jin An put Serena down and reached out to pick his ears. Didn't I tell you that I'm Golden Lion's subordinate, Jack? Have the celestial dragons been high and mighty for too long, causing their ears to degenerate? Jin An's appearance is completely based on the future plague queen of the beasts pirates, with a bald head, sunglasses and a golden braid on his head. He walked slowly to the front of the celestial dragon, raised his hand to take off his glasses. His not-so-tall stature gave Saint Lasgard a feeling of a towering figure, bringing him terrifying pressure. He swung his golden braids and looked down at the celestial dragon in front of him. I'm asking you a question, Master Celestial Dragon. Saint Lasgard could not bear the pressure brought by the man in front of him, and unconsciously took a few steps back. He was stunned for a moment after hearing these words, then he straightened his body wisely. He was an honorable celestial dragon, and no one dared to attack him. Untouchable, what makes you dare to come in front of me? He paused, then put on an arrogant expression. Why don't you get out of my sight right now? Noble Tian Longren, do you want to take a look at the environment here? Jin An raised his eyebrows. There are not many people here. It is easier for me to kill you than to kill a fish. Are you sure you want to talk to me in this tone? Jin An walked up to him, waved his hand suddenly, slapped the glass cover to pieces, and had a close contact with the greasy face of the Tianlong man. Ah! The Tianlong man covered his face and flew backwards. How dare you hit me? How dare you, a lowly person, hit me? I want you to live a life worse than death. The guards stared at Jin An with disbelief, their eyes were full of shock and fear. Their mouths were open wide enough to fit an egg. They stared blankly at what had just happened, their eyes flashing with anxiety and fear. The hearts that had been hanging in the air finally died. Dragon and Doflamingo also opened their mouths wide. One of them was a member of the headquarters navy and the other was a former celestial dragon. They both knew what would happen after beating up a celestial dragon. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have stopped you. Maybe things wouldn't have turned out like this. Although he said that, his excited expression clearly showed that he also wanted to try throwing a few punches. Long stood there in a daze. I can only say that it is worthy of being called Jin An. Do you know what you have done? The guard asked in a trembling voice. Jin An took out a tissue and wiped his hands. Isn't it just beating a pig? No. You don't understand the horror of the celestial dragons. You want the people on this island to die with you. The admiral of the marine headquarters is coming. We are all sinners. We will all die. These words chilled the hearts of everyone present, as if they were in a cold winter, and their bodies couldn't stop shaking. They all understood what would happen if they angered the celestial dragons, but they were unable to defeat the man in front of them, so they could only grit their teeth. I want to see who has the ability to call the admiral of the navy. Jin An's domineering aura enveloped the entire island. I am watching your every move. Want to contact the navy? I'd like to see if you can do it. As long as the phone can't make a call outside, who will know what's happening here? Can the general predict the future? Jinan kicked the guard next to him and said, "Go and serve your great Tianlong people." "I." The guard buried his head between his legs. "I dare not, please let me go, I will never do bad things again." Everyone here has seen Jinan's great power. They are not old centenarians who are dissatisfied with their lifespan, so they can only act like ostriches and pretend to be deaf and dumb. "Hey, let me tell you again." Jinan slapped the pretending unconscious last guard saint awake. "I'll take the mermaid over there. If you want revenge, I'll be waiting for you in the Flying Pirates. I can give you everything that the Golden Lion gave you." Saint Lasgard covered his swollen mouth and said incoherently, "As long as you forgive me, I can give you anything." He could only believe what Jinan said. With this man's lawless character, he might change his mind and kill him the next moment. Although his brain was not working well, he was not stupid. All he wanted now was to spend money to buy his life. As long as he could return to Marijoa alive, he could continue to abuse his power. As a world noble, the money he has is enough to easily buy a country, which also makes him cherish his life. Otherwise, the person will die, and the money will not only remain unspent, but will also be divided up by other celestial dragons. "I don't want your money," Jinan said with disdain. "It's all dirty money squeezed from ordinary people, and he doesn't care about the little money he has." There was a flash of anger in Lasgard Saint's eyes, but he quickly concealed it. "As long as you promise not to kill me, I can fulfill any of your wishes." Jinan didn't look at him again. This idiot really didn't understand what he said, or he wanted to live too much. He was obviously released, but he was still making noise. "I'll take you out first." Jinan picked up Selena. Selena looked at Jinan uneasily, leaned close to his ear and asked, "Are you really okay? I'm afraid they will retaliate against you." "It's okay. He won't dare to take any action until I leave the island," Jinan replied. "Master Celestial Dragon, you and I have a lifelong friendship. When you come to the Sky Pirates in the future, I will definitely hold a grand welcome ceremony for you. Important things must be said 3 times. Jinan smiled evilly and left the auction house in broad daylight holding Selena. "Damn this pariah!" Saint Lasgard cursed in a low voice. "Lord Tianlongren, you seem to have something to talk to me about." Jinan poked his head out from the exit and looked at Saint Lasgard calmly. "No, nothing happened. I'm just seeing you off." He laughed dryly and lowered his head. "Then I'm really leaving this time. Goodbye." "Master Tianlongren, what should we do now?" the guard asked cautiously. Lasgard Saint threatened the disgusting face, "Damn beast, take me back to Marijoa." "Got it." The man who was beaten did not dare to show any dissatisfaction and answered with a smile on his face. On the coast, the waves gently lapped on the beach, the sun shone on the sea and on the two of them. They stood together, facing the upcoming farewell. "I'll take you here. It's safe here. You can go back to Fishman Island with confidence." Jinan put Selena in a deserted sea area. "Remember, it's best not to come to land in the future, so as to avoid being caught by human traffickers again." Selena was both happy and sad, with tears glistening in her eyes. She held Jinan's hands tightly with both hands, as if she wanted to freeze this moment forever. Her lips trembled slightly, but she could not make a sound. Only a kind of silent sadness surged in her heart. After so many words, there was only one sentence left: "I know, you have to be careful too, the world outside is really different from what I imagined." She made up her mind that in addition to divination, she would also learn some skills so that she could protect herself and others. "Goodbye then." Selena turned and dived into the water. After a moment, her figure disappeared into the deep sea. Chapter 45 Xiaoqi and Number 039, S Extortion Pub. "Hey, our colonel is reluctant to let the beauty leave." Doflamingo's voice came from the bushes behind. Jinan touched his short hair and said, "Don't talk nonsense, kid." He stood there motionless only because, under his observation with his observation haki, the celestial dragon finally started to act. She also knew very well that Selena was only grateful to him, and he was just helping a girl with limited mobility. It was no big deal. "I think you are just trying to change the subject," Doflamingo joked. He was in a very good mood now and he found the meaning of continuing to struggle again. Children should not get involved in adult matters. Jinan looked behind him and said, "Long, you and Dover should go around the island. There are still many interesting things to see on this island." He took Doflamingo's hand and handed him over to Dragon. This guy has a good ability to get into trouble, you have to keep a close eye on him. Doflamingo struggled with dissatisfaction. It was fine to treat him as a child, but what was the point of looking down on him like that? He had done a lot of great things in the auction house. I'm telling you, if you treat me like a child, you'll suffer a great loss. Of course Jinan knew that when he was only 10 years old, he could kill his father and change his identity to a celestial dragon. Who would dare to look down on him? Then I'll give you some tasks to do later. Long asked doubtfully, aren't you coming with us? I have an old friend on this island. Now that I'm here, I have to go see him. It won't take long. I'll be back soon. Also, I have something to tell you. Jinan continued. Among the slaves released at the auction just now were some pirates. You all saw them when you were imprisoned. Those people are all money. You should arrest them and send them to the naval base here in exchange for some money, so that they won't run out and harm people again. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. It's not shameful to make money. Moreover, Jinan didn't believe that these pirates would change their ways just because they were sold by human traffickers once. Maybe this incident will make things worse. The mentality of many people is that if they have been caught in the rain, they will tear down other people's houses. Remember to use the identity of a bounty hunter. Simply using their naval identities would not be enough to explain their purpose of coming here, and maybe they wouldn't even pay the bounty, which would be a huge loss. Jinan waved and turned to walk towards the island, leaving only his back to the two of them. Could he have a lover on this island? He ran so fast. Dragon just curled his lips, obviously not interested in Doflamingo's joke. Hurry up, we must return immediately. Saint Lasgard felt that he would not feel safe as long as he stayed here, and he did not want to stay here for a moment. This place brought him an unforgettable experience, but also completely wiped out his pride as a celestial dragon, leaving only anger in his heart. As he finished speaking, a guard lay on the ground waiting for the celestial dragon to ride on him. There was no other way, the previous slaves had been killed, so this kind of work had to fall on the guards like them. Please take a seat on my back, my lord. He wanted to use this method to reduce the hostility of the celestial dragons towards him so that he would not be punished too severely. Do we need to notify the Navy headquarters? Do you think I'm not embarrassed enough? What's the point of telling those useless Marines now? I don't know where that person has gone. As for taking his anger out on the people on this island? He did have this idea, but he would have to wait until he returned to Marijoa to make a long-term plan. After all, this island could still bring some fun to the celestial dragons, and it would not be in their interest to destroy it directly. Saint Lasgard sat directly on the man's back, covering his face with his sleeves, and headed towards the port surrounded by many guards. There was bottomless darkness in the eyes hidden by his sleeves. He would not let go of the man named Jack and the mermaid. He would let her know what fear was. The flying pirates, Golden Lion, Jack. Lasgard Saint murmured, remember this, I will take revenge. He looked at the guards around him with cold eyes. No one who saw his miserable appearance should live. They should enjoy their last moments. Finally, when he reached the end of the road, he looked back at the auction site where he had suffered humiliation, and said, bring CP2 back to me, alive or dead. Jinan, who was hiding behind a house, took in all of Lasgard Saint's expressions. It could only be said that it was hard to change one's nature. Even after being taught a lesson like this, he still refused to change. Fortunately, he was not crazy enough to vent his anger on the people on this island, otherwise Jinan would have to find ways to avoid some risks. As for now, Jinan just needs to wait for him to leave the island. The Navy serves the world government, but he is now a pirate who does all kinds of evil. And now he was going to visit an acquaintance, wondering if there would be any surprises. 20 minutes later, Jinan arrived at the destination of this trip and strolled leisurely among the Yarkiman mangroves. A huge and eye-catching number, 13, is marked on the mangrove in the distance. Looking at the bubbles flying around, Jinan was amazed. This kind of scenery can only be seen in the Chebayati Islands. Numbers 1 to 29 are all illegal areas, a paradise for criminals where all kinds of illegal transactions can be carried out. From a distance, what comes into view is a house with a round roof covered with moss. On the door is a wooden plaque with the name of the shop engraved on it, Syaki Ripoff Bar. Dong dong dong. Jinan reached out and knocked gently on the door frame. The wind chimes at the door swayed gently, making a pleasant sound. Inside the bar, a woman was sitting, smoking. It's not even business hours yet. Did you go to the wrong place, or can you bring me some other business? The woman made a lazy sound. Judging from her voice alone, one would think she was a gentle and kind older sister, but few of the people who opened shops here were simple. Are you the only one here? Jinan found a seat and sat down. Xiaoqi's pupil shrank, she took a puff of cigarette and said indifferently, I have always run this place by myself. If you are just here for fun, I can only regret to tell you that you have come to the wrong place. Jinan waved his hand, don't be so nervous, it doesn't matter if that person is not here, anyway, I came to find you this time. Xiaoqi became alert, what do you want from me? You can't be here to drink. I have some information to sell you. Jinan took a sip of tea. In half an hour, a ship loaded with gold, silver, and jewels will leave from the waters west of the Sabayati Islands. Xiaoqi flicked away the cigarette ash with her fingers, what does this have to do with me? Pirates are all short of money, and I am no exception. But I can't handle the guards on that ship. So, you just want to use me to relieve some of the pressure on you in snatching treasures. Xiaoqi said disdainfully, why should I help you? Let's make money together. Jinan put his hand on Xiaoqi's shoulder. Xiaoqi's eyes narrowed suddenly. She had also been on the Rock's ship. Even she couldn't see the other party's movements clearly, which was enough to prove that the person in front of her was not someone she could afford to offend. This person was not negotiating with her, but making a naked threat. For a master like you, it would be easy to rob a ship, right? Xiaoqi looked at the hand on his shoulder, are the people on that ship very powerful? Or is your identity not simple? Don't worry about that. You just need to send this message to those greedy pirates. The breeze blew the wind chimes, the man's words were still in my ears, but the man had disappeared. Xiaoqi breathed a sigh of relief, her plump chest rising and falling. You want to make a big incident, then I'll add fuel to the fire for you. The Golden Lion seems to be nearby. With his personality of loving to join in the fun, he will definitely get involved. I hope you can make things bigger and bring disaster upon yourself. Chapter 46 The Targeted Official Ship. Go forward as fast as you can, and I will go back as fast as I can. Saint Lasgard, who had changed into a new set of clothes and a new mask, walked up to the guard and gave him an order in a domineering manner. It's already the fastest speed, Saint Lasgard, the guard replied tremblingly. How are the three people from CP2 doing now? Saint Lasgard frowned. The guard seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly he spoke with difficulty, the bones of the adults are all broken, and they may not be able to be saved. Trash, all trash. 3 people beat 1 person and it turned out like this. Can I still trust my safety to these trash in the future? Saint Lasgard cursed loudly. All he thought about was his own safety. He didn't care about those dying people at all. We have contacted the Holy Land. The adults from CP, please come back to pick us up. The guards did not dare to offend him and could only tell him some good news. Sure enough, after hearing these words, Saint Lasgard suddenly smiled. Okay, okay. Have you told those people in the Holy Land about Jack? The guard could not figure out the fickle mood of the celestial dragons, so he said happily, I have told you. I heard that the 5 elders will personally look into this matter. You bastard, who told you to spread rumors everywhere? I can handle these things myself. Saint Lasgard's eyes were wide open and he kicked the man to the ground. As if he was still not satisfied, he kicked the man again and again. I don't dare any more, please forgive me. The man kept begging for mercy. But it was of no use. Instead, his shouting aroused the interest of Saint Lasgard, so he simply took out a whip and started whipping him hard. Not long after, the man became silent and lay motionless on the deck. Interesting. Saint Lasgard suddenly laughed. He enjoyed the feeling of being high above and in control of other people's lives. Only in this way could he temporarily forget what had happened before. Will you dare to make decisions for me in the future? The guards were stunned at first, then quickly knelt on the deck. You know that we always listen to you, sir. We always obey your orders and dare not show any disrespect. That guy is a smart aleck. We don't really know him well. Saint Lasgard's eyes were filled with arrogance. This was the power given to him by authority. The life and death of these people depended on his thoughts. I like the look in your eyes. After saying this, he walked into his extremely luxurious cabin. Unlike the cabin where the guards and CP lived, the place where he lived was decorated with all kinds of precious treasures, and the carpet was also made of the furs of various rare animals. There are more than 10 boxes of various sizes placed on the carpet. From the gaps in the boxes, you can see that they are filled with colorful jewels. Just a little bit of them is exposed, but it makes the cabin look luxurious. Saint Lasgard took off his clothes and jumped onto the soft bed like a sow diving into the water. Outside the cabin, on the deck, the guards all breathed a sigh of relief. This guy almost killed us all. Although they are all guards of the celestial dragons, their status is actually not much higher than that of slaves. Looking at the tightly closed door of the celestial dragon, they all took out cigarettes from their bags, lit them up, and then relieved their stress. Everyone wants to climb up the career ladder because they all have the job of protecting the celestial dragons, but the consequences of failure are right in front of them. Although it is dangerous to stay with the celestial dragons, the benefits are also obvious. In the eyes of the celestial dragons, they are nothing, but in the eyes of ordinary people, they suddenly become people that no one dares to offend. And as long as they can figure out the intentions of the celestial dragons, they will no longer be in danger. This is a privilege that can only be enjoyed by being around the celestial dragons. Remember to pay attention to your surroundings. We are the only ones responsible for the escort now, and we don't know when the big shots from CP will arrive. As long as we reach Mary Gosa successfully, we will definitely receive a generous reward. You are overthinking it. No one in this world who dares to cause trouble for the celestial dragons has been born yet. The man thought for a moment and added, except for the madman before. When it comes to that madman, they are surprised. How dare that person? The Tianlong people dare to fight, and the strangest thing is that the Tianlong people still endured it. Could it be that the celestial dragons would also be afraid? As soon as this thought appeared in their minds, it was thrown away. Such a thing was impossible. Even someone like Rox, who dreamed of dominating the world, had never attacked the celestial dragons. After 800 years of rule, the world government has established the authority of the celestial dragons in the hearts of everyone in this world, and no one can resist. Anyone who dares to face the authority of the celestial dragons is either going crazy or is not from this world. Captain, I have cracked a piece of encrypted information. Oh? Tell me about it. A blond man sat on a seat covered with animal skins, wiping the 2 knives in his arms. The information says that a ship loaded with gold, silver, and jewelry will pass by us. It seems that this is money sent to Marijoa by a certain kingdom in order to bribe the celestial dragons. The crew member replied. So the guards shouldn't be strong, right? Golden Lion became interested. That's a good thing. If they're not far from us, let's just go over there. But, I'm afraid this information is a trap. The crew member was obviously much more rational. I'm not afraid of shit. Golden Lion sheathed his knife. I'm Golden Lion. It doesn't matter if it's a trap. I can just walk through it. Wow. As expected of the Golden Lion boss. Mighty. Domineering. The crew members cheered one after another. They had never been defeated since they formed the pirate group. The money delivered to the celestial dragons was not the heavily guarded gold from heaven, but it was enough for them to squander for a while. They could even use this opportunity to spread the reputation of their pirate group further. Pirates with the same thoughts are all heading towards the same location, and they all have the same goal. Boom! The waves on the sea became turbulent, and in a moment the wind and clouds changed, and the originally clear sky suddenly became overcast. There seemed to be a huge monster rolling and cruising in the dark clouds. On the sea, the guards stopped their work and looked into the distance curiously. Their eyes were full of annoyance because the sudden storm slowed down their progress a lot. The weather changes so quickly. The guards smiled helplessly and quickened their movements. Stop complaining. Control the direction and continue working. In a corner where they weren't paying attention, a man with golden braids was silently observing their actions. Chapter 47 The show begins. Amid the thunder, Jinan slowly approached the cabin. Saint Lasgard woke up from his sleep, sat up suddenly, covered his chest and gasped. After resting for a while, his originally dilated pupils focused again, and his pale face gradually turned rosy. Hey! Saint Lasgard frowned. He also heard the thunder in the sky. At this moment, the tightly closed cabin door was slowly opening. He turned around and looked in the direction of the cabin door with some annoyance, but the door still opened very slowly. You can't even guard the door. Do you want to die? Hurry up and close the door. He started cursing before the door was even opened. Strong winds continued to pour in through the crack in the door. After taking off his coat, Saint Lasgard clasped his arms together, feeling a little uncomfortable and shrank back. Under his irritable gaze, a foot wearing leather shoes stepped into the cabin. "You bastard, who let you in? I told you to close the door, don't you understand?" He was shivering with cold and wished he could rush over and close the door. The cabin was dark, with only a faint light shining through the gaps, leaving a mottled shadow at the door. Jinan entered the cabin silently like a dark shadow. His eyes were fixed forward, watching the stunned Tianlong people with interest. When Saint Lasgard saw the figure in front of him clearly, his pupils dilated unnaturally, and he couldn't help but exclaimed in excitement, "Why is it you?" When the door opened, his angry expression froze instantly. His eyes widened and he looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. His inner panic was almost beyond words. His body trembled slightly and his fingers trembled unconsciously. There was a hint of fear and uneasiness in his eyes. He knew that he had no chance of winning against the opponent, and he didn't understand how this person had sneaked up on him so quietly. At this moment, he felt that his psychological defenses seemed to collapse in an instant, leaving him with emptiness and helplessness. "Where's my guard? What did you do to them?" Jinan raised a finger and placed it in front of his mouth, signaling him to speak more quietly. "You clearly said you would let me go." Lasgard Saint seemed not to notice Jinan's gesture and roared, "You can't go back on your word." Looking at the celestial dragon who was yelling in front of him, Jinan felt helpless. Sometimes he really wanted the power of the silence fruit, otherwise he would be very troubled every time he encountered such a yelling person because it was too tiring for his ears. "If I remember correctly, I just told you to leave the Sabayati archipelago as soon as possible. I never said I would let you go." Jinan spread his hands and replied. "As for your guards, they are all outside." After hearing what Jinan said, Lasgard Saint also saw the situation outside through the open hatch. Those people all fell to the ground. Although there were no wounds on their bodies, they had no fighting power left. He is truly alone now. Lasgard Saint looked at the man in front of him in disbelief. "Why can't you let me go? Why is this guy staring at him? Why didn't I let you go? I didn't expect you to ask such a question." Jinan grinned, "Because I'm happy. Because I'm stronger than you, because I can't suppress the urge to kill you. You actually have such an idea." He opened his mouth in disbelief. He couldn't figure out whether the person in front of him was crazy. He actually wanted to kill a celestial dragon, the top kind of people in this world. You must know that their lives are more noble than anyone else in this world. No one can judge them. They are the gods of this world. They are the taboos of this sea. Ordinary people dare not even look at them directly. What kind of freak is this person? Are you satisfied with this answer? Jinan asked. "If you are, I will send you on your way." Jinan stood in the shadow of the room, his eyes cold and sharp. Through the dim light, a cold smile flashed on his face. He casually split the door panels into long sticks, and then inserted them into Saint Lasgard's limbs. Lasgard Saint was tied to the bed. He struggled, but every movement made him grimace in pain. He couldn't escape. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. He knew he couldn't escape. "Do you think you can escape?" Jinan's voice was cold and mocking. "You are just a bug controlled by me. Now, I will let you taste the despair of torturing innocent people by you." He slowly walked towards Lasgard Saint and picked up a sharp knife. The blade flashed strangely in the light. Jinan's smile became even colder. He mercilessly slashed the knife across the man's skin. Screams echoed in the room. He turned a deaf ear to every plea from the man and his heart was as hard as stone. "Do you think you can live well after killing me?" Saint Lasgard's voice was full of sarcasm. "You are wrong. The world government will avenge me. You and your pirate group will not be able to escape. I will not let you go even if I die. I'm looking forward to their revenge for you." Jinan grinned. "You go to Golden Lion for revenge. What does it have to do with me, the governor of the South China Sea? Maybe at that time, he will even celebrate the dog-eat-dog fight between the two sides." "You beast, I want you to live a life worse than death." Vicious curses kept coming out of the mouths of the Tianlong people. Jinan was amazed. It turned out that they could also be afraid and terrified of death. "They will avenge me. Your every move is in the eyes of those people. They are already rushing here. I'm waiting for you in hell, Ha 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 ha. Jinan slashed Lasgard Saint's neck cleanly with a knife, separating his head and body instantly. His head was pushed out by the surging blood and fell heavily to the ground. The expression before death still remained on his face, confusion, anger, and doubt intertwined together, forming an extremely funny expression. Finally, the annoying wailing stopped, and only the eerie silence remained in the room. Jinan looked at the unconscious body of the celestial dragon and smiled disdainfully. Of course he knew that there were surveillance den mushi set up by the world government on this ship, so the ship had been kept in disguise. When the time comes, let Kuzan and his men wipe out a pirate group, and then report it to the marine headquarters with his name, so that no one will associate what happened today with him. Tianlong people? Compared to lambs to be slaughtered, it won't take much effort to kill you. My fellows, the target ship is just ahead. Kill them and all the treasures will be ours. After we rob them, we'll hold a party and have fun. In the distance, pirate ships were rapidly approaching the ship carrying the celestial dragons. The laughter of the pirates gathered together, making the sea lively again. Banquet. Come on. The show has begun. Chapter 48 Reactions from all parties. The pirate ship slowly approached the ship loaded with gold, silver, and jewelry as stated in the information. There was silence on the ship except for the sound of the sea breeze blowing across the sails. The pirates looked around vigilantly and could vaguely sense an ominous aura. When they boarded the ship, the scene before them shocked them. The deck was littered with guards lying on the ground, but there was no trace of fighting left. It seemed very strange, as if these people had fallen to the ground before they could even resist. The pirates' faces turned serious. They knew that what was happening here was not simple. They remained alert and continued to move inside. Deep inside the cabin, they found a body with its head and body separated. The cabin where the body was located was magnificently decorated. If they took out any item from here, they would not have to worry about the rest of their lives. But they couldn't be happy, the corpse sent chills down their spines. We were fooled. Cook's voice was cold and angry. This was not our goal. Someone set a trap for us. The pirates looked at each other, anger and helplessness intertwined in their hearts. They understood that they had become pawns on someone else's chessboard, and their momentary greed had led them into this deadly trap. But besides being angry, the pirates also felt a strong sense of revenge in their hearts. There was no one in this world who did not hate the celestial dragons, but they did not dare to take action. And now, a celestial dragon died in front of them, how could they not be excited? While they were feeling happy, they swore that they would never let the sinister enemies who framed them go unpunished, and that the culprit who made them take the blame must be killed without a burial place. Afterwards, the pirates recorded the situation on the ship and reported to the captain. Admiral, there are indeed a lot of treasures on the ship. The pirate's face was not excited, but full of uneasiness, but there is also a corpse of a celestial dragon. The golden lion narrowed his tiger eyes, Tian Longren. Just like his nickname Golden Lion, Shiki has golden hair that reaches the ground, just like a lion's mane. In addition, his sideburns and beard are also golden, and his sideburns are very long, making him look like a lion. Yes, Admiral, it seems we have been tricked, the man said angrily. Ha 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 ha. I can't believe someone would dare to plot against me. It seems like the fear I have brought to this world is not enough. The golden lion laughed towards the sky, but his eyes were frighteningly cold. Take me to see that celestial dragon. He jumped suddenly from the bow of the ship, and then landed lightly on the celestial dragon's ship. I don't know what the deep hatred is, but this Tianlong died miserably. The pirates shook their heads when they saw the miserable plight of the celestial dragons. Among these pirates, some showed smug smiles after hearing the news. They realized that they could use this incident to spread their name. It is conceivable that this action will cause a sensation worldwide, and they can definitely use it to become famous overnight. But these people didn't expect that this attack not only gained them a huge amount of gold, silver, and jewelry, but also was a challenge to the authority of the world government. As long as they were targeted by the world government, their days would be difficult. At the same time, on the Red Earth continent, the holy land of Marijoa. Marijoa is a holy place of the world government, where live the most noble celestial dragons in the world. The city walls here are towering into the clouds, the palaces are magnificent and spectacular, and the lofty towers reach the sky. Anyone who comes to this land will be shocked by the momentum of this city. However, there was something strange about the atmosphere in the Holy Land today. The celestial dragons received shocking news in the streets of the Holy Land of Marijoa. A ship loaded with gold, silver, and jewelry was attacked, and a celestial dragon on board was brutally killed, and all the guards on the ship were also killed. The news spread quickly in the holy land of Marijoa, causing an uproar. All of this is obvious. When their lives are threatened, their inner panic and fear will be infinitely magnified. The celestial dragons are a privileged class in the world government. They consider themselves superior and are never afraid of anyone. However, at this moment they felt rare fear and helplessness. In Marijoa's palace, some celestial dragons looked serious and exchanged glances frequently. They realized that this attack was not just an ordinary act of piracy, but a serious challenge to their privileged status. We must respond to this incident, otherwise there will be more and more incidents against the celestial dragons in the future. What will the 5 elders decide on this matter? Golden Lion's flying pirates are not easy to deal with. They fly in the air and it is difficult for us to control their specific location. Those with ulterior motives wanted to completely crush their arrogance, and they did it. The reality of various problems intertwined together put them in a passive position. However, it is impossible for them to act according to each other's wishes. Wait for the arrangements of the 5 elders. The celestial dragons of Marijoa felt a fear they had never felt before. The pirates who participated in this incident laughed in the dark. They knew that this action would cause a sensation in the world and they would become famous because of it. Malinvando. In the quiet and peaceful atmosphere, Jean Guo finally had some time to rest, and he finally tore a hole in the senbei on his desk. Bulu bulu, bulu bulu. Jean Guo frowned as he held the senbei between his fingers. He looked at the senbei in his hand and finally decided to put it back after a struggle. Hello, I'm Sengoku. Marshal Kong, what's going on? Kong Gong sighed heavily. The world government sent him the news that the celestial dragons had been killed and asked him to take immediate action. He knew that this order was imperative. Although he personally did not care about the life and death of the celestial dragons, as an organization under the jurisdiction of the world government, he had to obey orders. Sengoku heard Sora sigh, a look of confusion and uneasiness on his face. Sengoku, I received an order from above. A celestial dragon died near the Sabayati archipelago, and they asked us to investigate the incident. Steelbone Sora's voice was serious and heavy, revealing the pressure he was under. What? The celestial dragons were killed. Jean Guo frowned slightly. He knew what this meant and he also understood Marshal Kong's situation, but facing the pressure from the world government, he knew that escape was useless. Yes, Marshal, I understand. I will set off to investigate immediately. Jean Guo's tone was firm. The impact of this incident was not in their favor, so they could only do their best. Marshal Kong nodded, disconnected the Den Den Mushi, and prayed silently in his heart that everything could be resolved smoothly. He knew that this investigation would be a journey full of challenges and dangers, but he also believed that with Jean Guo's strength and ability, he would be able to give an explanation to his superiors. On the other side, Sengoku's expression kept changing. He couldn't understand why the Golden Lion would choose to attack the celestial dragons, and in the Sabayati archipelago, so close to Marijoa and Marineford. Chapter 49, Confrontation Among the Flowers. Oh my god, that celestial dragon is dead. Doflamingo whispered as he leaned close to the dragon. Doflamingo had no awareness of being a former celestial dragon at all. He directly joined the army of spectators and was very interested in it. Heard it. Long reluctantly slapped Doflamingo's hand on his shoulder away, and the news spread among the people around him. As for whispering in his ear, the people on the island showed gloating smiles on their faces, with a hint of pleasure and satisfaction in their eyes. They felt very relieved, and because of some personal grudges in the past, they were satisfied with the fate of the celestial dragons. It's good to die. I've had enough of these tyrannical dragons. It would be better if more people died, so that our lives would be better. Their words were full of sarcasm and excitement, and they showed an undisguised satisfaction at the death of the celestial dragons. Another group of people had worried looks on their faces, frowning brows, and their hearts were filled with fear and anxiety. Keep your voice down. Someone looked around. Just be happy, we don't know how they will retaliate. I heard that the celestial dragons seem to be able to call the admirals of the navy just for being injured. Now that one of them is dead, I really don't know what they will do. They are worried that this incident will trigger greater unrest and may lead to more violence and hatred, so they choose their words carefully for fear of causing unnecessary trouble or offending certain forces. The atmosphere on the entire island became tense and uneasy, with discussions rising and falling. In the streets and alleys, People whispered to each other, passing on various rumors and speculations about the incident. Some people gathered together to condemn the violence. The celestial dragons are not something we can speculate about, so please stop discussing this matter. The Tianlong people deserve what they have done. Finally, someone can no longer stand it. They should pay the price for their sins. In such an atmosphere, people's language is full of emotion and complexity. Some are angry, some are terrified, and some are calm and rational, but no matter their emotions, everyone is trying to cope with the impact of this incident while protecting themselves and what they value. Suddenly, Long turned around and looked behind him unconsciously. The sky was covered with dark clouds, with lightning flashing from time to time in the clouds and strong winds howling, bringing with them an indescribable feeling of oppression and ominous foreboding. An inexplicable sense of uneasiness surged in his heart, as if an irresistible storm was brewing in the sky. The world is becoming more and more chaotic. I don't know what it will be like in the future. Long sighed. In this environment, the power of an individual is always limited. I hope that by following Jinan, I can make a slight difference in this world. In Jinan, he saw a temperament that was different from everyone else in this world, just as the place where he used to live was full of peace. And he also wanted to make the place he governed look like that. It took Jinan so long to find a lover. Doflamingo shook his head and lamented the decline of morals. The corner of Long's mouth twitched. How come this little guy has let himself go since leaving the auction house? That's enough. Be careful that Jinan comes back and hears you making up stories about him. I'm not afraid of him. I will be stronger than him in the future. If he dares to hit me now, I will definitely hit back in the future. Doflamingo said confidently. Long said no more. He didn't have the confidence that he could surpass Jinan. He really didn't know where this kid got the confidence from. Red Earth Continent, Pangu City, among the flowers. The 5 people at the highest level of government power in the world, the 5 elders. The 5 most powerful people in the world's government sat together solemnly, their expressions were serious, and their eyes revealed a hint of unquestionable authority. The sunlight filtered through the window and cast their shadows on the wall, giving people a solemn and mysterious feeling. They ignored the man opposite them, tapping the table in front of them with their hands while they stared. This seems like they are demonstrating their authority, indicating that they are dictating the pace of the conversation. The Admiral of the Navy, Kong Zi, stood opposite them, his posture straight and his eyes firm and resolute. The 5 elders stared at the Admiral of the Navy. One of them spoke first, his voice solemn and oppressive. Sora, we summoned you here to hold you accountable for the murder of the celestial dragons. Can you give us a satisfactory answer? There was a hint of blame and questioning in his tone, and his attitude seemed arrogant and unquestionable. Saint Jagarsha Satan, I mourn for the death of the celestial dragon. Gang Gukong said in a deep voice, when the Holy Land contacted me, I had already arranged for Zhang Guo to go and investigate. With his ability, I believe he can do it well. His expression revealed an unwavering determination, which reflected his trust in Sengoku and also demonstrated to the 5 elder stars the capabilities of the Navy and Sengoku. Sora, you are still so eloquent. Marcus Ma Saint clapped his hands with a mocking expression on his face. So you think that the lives of the world's nobles can only allow you to send out a Navy Admiral? As soon as these words came out, Steel Bone Kong's eyes changed instantly. Facing the questioning looks from the 5 elders, he stood there calmly and steadily, staring at the 5 people with a firm gaze. Lasgard Saint had an accident in the waters very close to Marijoa. That place is usually patrolled by the CP. I don't think our Navy is responsible this time. The Navy is completely covering up for the CP this time. As the Admiral of the Navy, he needs to deal with problems from the perspective of the Navy, rather than blindly following the orders of the Celestial Dragons. Every Navy's top combat force must be used in the most critical place. Besides, it wasn't their Navy who killed the Celestial Dragons, so why should he spend so much effort to clean up their mess? Don't forget that your Navy's military expenses are paid by us. Jigarsha Satan said gloomily, you must obey our orders. Kong Kong was almost laughing out of anger. Of course I know that the source of military funds is you, but there are many guys with great strength and potential emerging on the pirate side, and Zifa and the others have all been sent out. As long as you give me manpower and military funds now, I will immediately send a group of people to chase after that damn golden lion. Cyborg Kong laughed at himself. Nominally he was the admiral of the marine headquarters and could command all the navies in the world, but he understood that he was actually just a puppet, and whenever he encountered anything bigger he had to ask the 5 elders for instructions. The 5 elders can also bypass him as the Navy Marshal and issue orders directly to the various naval branches. Even though they wiped out the Rocks pirates a few years ago, only he knew that their navy is now completely in a state of transition and cannot compare with the pirates at all. Shepherd 10 Peter Saint came out to smooth things over and said, "Kong, I know you're under a lot of pressure, but you have to think about us too. The death of the celestial dragons is known to everyone, and we must show our strength to deter those who are ready to make a move. As for the problem of lack of manpower on your side, we will send CP to assist you." Chapter 50 Each takes one step back. However, in order to demonstrate the majesty of the celestial dragons, you must do this matter beautifully. Zanbaran V. Nasujiro held the long sword in his arms, and a sharp light reflected in his glasses. Besides that, the news must be blocked. At least the newspapers cannot publish this matter. This may be a little difficult. Steelbone Kong frowned. The news he received was that the matter had spread everywhere in the Sabayati archipelago, and it seemed that someone was deliberately controlling public opinion. The navy of the Sabayati archipelago tried to control this matter before, but it was of no use. The 5 elders could no longer sit still. How is this possible? The Sabayati archipelago is a mixed bag, and many forces on the island are not supervised by the navy. Gang Gukong was a little helpless. There is really no way. The 5 elders regretted it deeply. The Sabayati archipelago was the most important transit point for pirates, no doubt about it. All pirate groups, big and small, had spies there. The situation on that island was caused by their deliberate indulgence, and they did not expect that they would now suffer the consequences. Do your best. The 5 elders know that there is no point in making things difficult for Kong Gong now. Now that things have become a foregone conclusion, we can only use iron-blooded means to prevent those damn pirates from having any inappropriate thoughts. I will mobilize all the CPS. G. Garsha Satan Saint said, they will also help you complete this mission in secret. We must annihilate the Golden Lion's flying pirates. This is not an exaggeration. There has been no news of the killing of celestial dragons in 800 years, which has enabled them to maintain their rule for such a long time. And now this number has changed from 0 to 1. If the thoughts of those people are not curbed, they dare not think whether they will still have the final say in the world in the future. Their identity means that they must think for the entire group of celestial dragons, and Lord I'm behind them does not want the world to fall into chaos. If they don't do this properly, they will also be punished. The celestial dragons are supreme and must not be offended, they are the gods of this world. An unknown sea. The sea was rough, and the majestic naval warships were arranged in neat arrays, like a barrier across the sea. The ships' flags fluttered in the wind, showing their majesty and power. Zhang Guo stood on a high platform, holding a telescope, staring at the battle situation in the distant sea. At the same time, the naval warships released astonishingly powerful firepower. The shells whizzed out, cutting through the sky and bombarded the pirates fiercely. The huge sound of cannons resounded through the sky, accompanied by thick smoke, giving people an irresistible sense of oppression. The flying pirates of Golden Lion are being chased and intercepted by the navy led by Sengoku. The shells exploded around the pirate ship, leaving behind clouds of smoke, which then dissipated in the whistling sound of the sea breeze. The pirates stood on the deck, brows furrowed, staring nervously and anxiously at the approaching naval fleet, beads of sweat dripping from their foreheads. "Admiral, we are about to be surrounded by the navy." Although they were floating in the air, they were forced into a dead end due to the influence of the weather and the continuous bombardment of a large number of naval shells. The pirates on the ship exchanged anxious glances with each other, their hearts filled with fear and uneasiness. They knew that the current situation was extremely dangerous for them. Once they were surrounded by the navy, they would have little chance of escape. "Didn't we just take some treasures? Why did the navy send so many people to encircle and suppress us?" asked the pirate who didn't understand the situation depressedly. "We have no choice. We have to take the blame for someone else. That damned thing, if he had killed someone, he should have surrendered himself. What's the point of putting the blame on us?" The Golden Lion stood at the bow, his golden hair fluttering in the sea breeze, its fate and time. He had never encountered such a large-scale siege when he was still in the Rocks Pirates. He didn't expect that he would be able to enjoy such treatment now that he has become a captain. The sea breeze was howling, the ship was swaying, and the crew were able to block the shells outside the ship, but they knew that if they ran out of strength they would be finished. But if they continued to resist, there was still a glimmer of hope. If they gave up, everything would be over, so they chose to fight to the end. Suddenly, the golden lion laughed out loud, ha 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 ha, Zhangguo. You can't kill me. I am the golden lion Shiki, a man who is destined to stand at the top of this world. Not far ahead, huge islands were floating towards this side. I'm waiting for the backup to come. What are you waiting for? Zhangguo. The golden lion laughed wildly and controlled the islands to float directly above the warship. His ability is that he can make anything he touches float no matter how far away it is, and control it at will. What is that? The sailors saw something floating towards them from a distance, and it was getting bigger and bigger in their eyes. When the island floated in the air, it was like black clouds covering the sky and swallowing up the sun. Just by floating in the air, it exuded a strong sense of oppression. The trees, rocks, and vegetation on the island swayed in the wind, like an angry beast, ready to launch a fierce attack on the enemies on the sea at any time. The crew of the naval fleet witnessed this scene and felt a sense of despair in their hearts. They had never imagined that they would face a threat from the island. Faced with such a powerful force, they felt as small as ants and unable to resist. Everyone disperse! Zhangguo screamed desperately. If all these islands fell down, they would definitely be wiped out. He never imagined that the golden lion possessed such powerful abilities. Zhangguo! The voice of the golden lion came from high above, how about we each take a step back? If you let me go, I won't let these islands fall. What do you think? His strength has not yet reached its peak, and he does not want to fight the navy to the death for the time being. Under the current circumstances, the best option is for both sides to take a step back. The moment the floating island hung above the navy's heads, the navy fell into a desperate struggle. They stood on the deck and watched the island slowly move until it was above their heads. What kind of crazy power is this? A lieutenant general of the headquarters murmured in a low voice, holding the railing of the warship tightly with both hands, what should we do? The generals all walked to the bow, their faces filled with anxiety and helplessness. The threat from the Golden Lion left them helpless. At the same time, Golden Lion stood on the edge of the pirate ship, his eyes flashing with madness, as if he was the master of the entire world. Are you still hesitating? His voice echoed throughout the sea. Hesitation will cost you. Zhangguo knew that he had to make a decision as soon as possible, but he really couldn't make this choice. If he allowed them to leave, the navy's reputation would plummet, and if he did not agree to the Golden Lion's demands, the islands might fall, bringing even more devastating consequences. General Zhangguo, don't hesitate. We believe that you have the strength to defeat the Golden Lion. We in the Navy are prepared to sacrifice at any time from the moment we join the army. Just go ahead and feel free. We will take care of our own safety. Chapter 51 Daily Life at Home. Shanks woke up and immediately felt the sunlight shining through the curtains onto the bed. He was now accustomed to getting up early to exercise, so after washing up, he quickly went out. In the morning light, he saw someone already doing hard running training, with beads of sweat on his forehead. Sister Ginny is still so hard-working. He murmured with admiration. Just as Shanks was sighing, he found that the ground under his feet was shaking. Big Bear was running quickly outside the training ground holding a huge stone. The huge stone looked insignificant on his shoulders, as if it was an easy task for him. A drop of cold sweat ran down Shanks' forehead. Big Bear put too much pressure on him. Even though they started training at the same time, he always felt that his strength was getting farther and farther away from his two older brothers and sisters. Good morning, Sister Ginny. Shanks walked towards Ginny and smiled widely. It's late now. Ginny stopped and wiped the sweat off her face. You're still up with your butt in the Sunday. I'm still growing, so I must get enough sleep. Shanks pulled Ginny's sleeve and acted coquettishly. Ginny tapped Shanks' nose gently. You always use the same excuse. You. Although I get up late, I finish today's work today. Shanks puffed out his chest proudly. Good, good, I know our little Shanks is the best. Ginny praised. While Shanks was still enjoying Ginny's praise, Jinan came out of the kitchen with a spatula, looked at the warm scene in front of him and said with a smile, Ginny, Shanks, go call Big Bear, breakfast is ready. Okay, big brother. Shanks ran outside happily. Sister Ginny, you go in first. I'll be responsible for calling brother Big Bear. Ginny looked at Shanks who was gradually going away and shook her head and smiled. Brother Jinan, what delicious food did you prepare for us this morning? She walked into the kitchen and took the initiative to set the table. I rolled the noodles and had some oil-splashed noodles this morning. Jinan answered while busy with his hands. Ginny sat quietly in her seat, watching Jinan cooking with shining eyes. As expected, brother Jinan is the most handsome when he works hard. Soon, Shanks and Big Bear came back, and the four of them sat around the table, enjoying a delicious breakfast. Big Bear, I really envy your ability. You can go wherever you want. Jinan peeled off a clove of garlic and put it into his mouth. Traveling back and forth to the Sabayati archipelago depends on the ability of the Big Bear. Jinan had only one thought in his mind, this ability was too abnormal. Big Bear smiled innocently, haha, my ability is your ability, just look for me wherever you want to go. Bear Cub is the best. We will travel around the world in the future. Ginny swallowed the noodles in her mouth contentedly, and lay on the chair while touching her belly. Brother, is the Sabayati archipelago fun? Shanks asked curiously. He also wanted to go out and play with his older brother, but unfortunately he was ruthlessly rejected by his older brother every time because of his age. It's okay. But the scenery is different from here. Other aspects are not as good as here. Jinan thought for a moment and replied, and it's very chaotic there. Children are better off not going there. Doflamingo, then what am I? Shanks glanced at his eldest brother and suddenly laughed, brother, I found that wherever you go, big events will happen. Looking at Shanks who was laughing so hard, Jinan also laughed. He found that it seemed to be true, and many of those things were caused by him. He shook his head and replied, bad luck. Wherever I go, I suffer misfortune. Then have you seen what the celestial dragons look like? I heard that you can see celestial dragons there. Shanks asked naively. Hearing this question, the kitchen suddenly became quiet. Ginny and Big Bear both lowered their heads, recalling the sad past. Jinan also saw what Ginny and the others were thinking, and he sighed secretly. The celestial dragons had a huge influence on them. After so much time, they still had such a big influence on them. I haven't seen it, but I heard that it looks like a pig, fat and can't even walk by itself. Jinan said. Jinan, you haven't told me about your experience after going out this time. Dakshang asked in confusion, when I picked you up, I seemed to hear that the navy was chasing the flying pirates of Golden Lion. Did anything happen there? When Ginny heard Big Bear's question, she instantly perked up and both of her ears stood up. It's nothing serious. I just heard that a celestial dragon was killed and the navy is hunting for the murderer. Jinan replied, touching his chin. He was also very curious about the current situation of Zhang Guo and Jin Shizi. With their strength, the fight should be very intense. Unfortunately, he was in a hurry to come back and didn't see the result. What? The celestial dragon is dead. Unlike Jinan's calmness, Dakshang and Ginny jumped up from their seats after hearing the news. Shanks was startled by them and jumped up as well. He looked at the two of them in bewilderment and thought to himself, a celestial dragon is dead, is it necessary to have such a big reaction? Jinan took a sip of tea and was very satisfied with the two people's reactions. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Break the inherent idea in their hearts that the celestial dragons cannot be provoked, and let them know that the celestial dragons are also human beings and can be killed. Then let them step by step get out of the psychological shadow caused by the celestial dragons. Draco, Draco. Big Bear repeated these three words with tears in his eyes. Shanks looked at Big Bear who suddenly started crying and immediately leaned over to comfort him, but he didn't know where to start, so he could only grab Big Bear's clothes with his little hands. Looking at the confused Shanks, Ginny's grief was relieved a lot. Her inner pain was no less than that of Big Bear. It's just that she is used to hiding her inner pain with a smile. Flutter flutter. There was the sound of bird flapping wings outside the door. Today's newspaper has arrived. I'll go out and get it. Jinan looked at the depressed people, left his seat and walked towards the door. Newsbird is specially used for delivering newspapers. All major events in the world need to be known through this newspaper, and the price is quite reasonable. Give me a newspaper. Jinan handed over 100 Baileys. The newsbird pointed its wings at the small backpack on its chest and squawked twice. Hey, your service attitude is so bad today, be careful or I will complain to you. Jinan took out a newspaper from his bag, held it in his hand and went straight back. How are you? Are you feeling better? Jinan unfolded the newspaper in his hand, and the headline of the news came directly into the eyes of the four people. Urgent report. The Admiral of the Navy Headquarters and Admiral of the Flying Pirates, Golden Lion Shiki, start a great battle in the Sea of Golan. There are several more islands at the battle site. Shiki the Golden Lion was defeated and fled. His whereabouts are unknown. The navy suffered heavy losses, and Zhang Guo was seriously injured and was escorted back to Marineford for treatment. Chapter 52, Dragon and Quzhan. Long and Quzhan stood at the two ends of the training ground, exuding amazing momentum, like two mountains facing each other, making people feel an indescribable sense of oppression. The sunlight shone through the layers of shade of the trees, onto their bodies, leaving behind two beautiful figures. A breeze blew, and sand whistled past them. The two men looked at each other seriously, not daring to be careless in the slightest. On the side, Ginny and the others were sitting next to each other with melon seeds in their hands. They all knew Quzhan's strength. However, this was the second time they had met that other person, and their exact strength would only be known after they fought. They were all looking forward to the match between the two on the field. This competition is quite interesting. It won't be surprising whoever wins. Big Bear said, sitting upright. The strength of both men on the field should not be underestimated. One has been following Vice Admiral Garp since childhood and has learned a lot of things that they cannot access. The other one has always been following Jinan in the charge and has extremely rich practical experience. The two have their own strengths in status and strength, and each has their own strengths. Hearing this, Ginny and the others didn't say anything, but just focused on eating melon seeds. This kind of sparring was the best way to eat with a meal, and they could eat a lot more than usual. The whole venue was shrouded in a tense and solemn atmosphere, as if the air had solidified. They stood in the center of the battlefield, their eyes met, like lightning, sparking sparks in the air. The silence at this moment is the last tranquility before the battle. In this silence, everyone can feel a delicate balance. And the upcoming battle will completely break this atmosphere. Long, who was standing on the sidelines, finally couldn't suppress his inner desire to fight. He raised his arm slightly and fired a finger gun from between his fingers. Compared to Long's quick response, Quzhan was much calmer. He took every move of the opponent into account and just dodged to the side to avoid the temptation. Sharp observation. Long stood in place, and an extremely powerful aura burst out, like a whistling gale, pressing towards Quzhan on the opposite side. The strong aura hit Quzhan, his body trembled, then he raised his head and an aura that was not inferior to that of the opponent burst out. Then the two of them rushed into the sky together, turning into two white streams of light that kept colliding in the air. Neither of them used their own fruit abilities, but only competed in physical strength and fighting skills. If they use their own abilities, this area will be completely destroyed by the huge attack range of the nature system. Not to mention that both of them are relatively young, but their strength has far surpassed that of their peers. When facing people of the same age, they can defeat the enemy with one move. The number of their peers whom they take seriously is less than the number of their hands. The two men engaged in combat instantly. And the sound of countless fists and feet clashing filled the sky. Various moves emerge one after another, and the frequency of attacks is like a storm. Shanks, who was happily eating melon seeds, watched the two people's wonderful competition and measured his own strength in his mind. It was just a competition of physical strength, but the power they exuded made him break out in cold sweats. How can a rookie like me survive with these two perverts? With all these gems in front of him, he felt a huge pressure. Shanks screamed in his heart. As the two fought, the surrounding environment also changed. At first, the field was calm, with a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. However, as the duel between the dragon and Quzhan intensified, the sky was filled with dust and the air was filled with the smell of burning. The fighting ground began to crack, rocks were blown everywhere by the aftermath of the fight between the two men, and the soil rolled as if it had been bombarded by artillery shells. The storm was rising, the trees were swaying, and everything on the training ground was destroyed beyond recognition by the fight between the two men. Long is as fast as lightning. He fights Quzhan in close combat, and every move he makes is a fatal attack. This is his highest respect for his opponent. Quzhan's expression was calm, and he rushed forward as fast as thunder. With a slight shake of his arm, he forced the dragon back. Dragon Claw Fist. A low roar came from the air, and a green claw mark suddenly burst out from the dragon's hand. Under this attack, the air seemed to make a mournful sound. Hey, 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 this move of yours is a bit foul. While saying this, Quzhan's moves were no less powerful than Long's attack. An ice blue palm print struck out horizontally and hit Long head-on. The venue instantly became their arena. They released their inner passion and strength and enjoyed the competition. Their clothes were tattered and their hair was disheveled, but their eyes were still full of fighting spirit and enthusiasm. When their fists and claws collided, a powerful energy burst out, covering the entire venue. A powerful shock wave swept across, engulfing everything around it. Finally, the two stopped what they were doing, their chests heaving, and they looked at each other breathlessly. Then they laughed out loud at the same time. Both men were covered in dust and bruises, but in their hearts, they were filled with respect for each other and the joy of meeting a worthy opponent. I haven't had such a good time in a long time. Let's continue next time. Long tore off his torn clothes, and his face was filled with smiles. The two of them were happy, but the people watching the game were overwhelmed. Big Bear and Ginny looked at each other. I wonder what Jinan will think when he comes back and sees the outside of his house turned into this state. Oh my god, why has my house become like this? Whoever did this, come out. An angry curse suddenly sounded in front of the house. As Jinan's voice rang out, the laughter in the backyard suddenly stopped. A fierce gust of wind blew out from the front door, stirring up the wind and clouds and sweeping away the dust covering the house. You two. If you want to fight, why don't you go somewhere else? You have to come to my place. If something is broken, will you compensate for it? The Jinan man's voice arrived before he did. Suddenly, a powerful and invisible force descended, and an invisible hand pressed the two men to the ground, making them unable to move. Then, Jinan walked slowly in front of them. His eyes were deep, like a deep lake, making people feel endless oppression. Long and Kuzan looked at the surrounding environment, looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They all came to find Jinan, and after chatting for a while, they felt a sense of mutual admiration and could not help but fight, but they failed to control their strength. Jinan walked to the backyard and looked at the scene in front of him. His heart was bleeding. The flowers, plants, and trees that he had cultivated with great difficulty were now all gone. His face was cold, as if he had no emotions at all, and he said nothing. Only the strength in his hands to subdue the two men expressed his current mood. He raised his hand and gave the two men a hard blow on the head, causing their vision to go black and their consciousness to fall into chaos. Okay, you came to my house to cause trouble. The base is so big that it's not big enough for you to mess around, right? Listening to Jinan's angry curse, both of them lowered their heads and dared not refute. They stood there obediently and were spitted in the face by Jinan. The three big bears who were watching the fight witnessed this scene and were extremely shocked. The two people who had just been showing their might were easily subdued by Jinan, which made them have endless associations about Jinan's strength. They knew very well that Jinan's strength was far beyond their imagination. He will also be their eternal idol. Chapter 53, A Job Seeker. The Kingdom of Salbi, the residence of Jinan. As the boss of the entire South China Sea Navy, Jinan naturally needs to assume the responsibilities of this position. Maintain the security and stability of the South China Sea, protect all the people in the South China Sea from pirates, deal with various disputes on the islands, and assess the code of conduct of the Navy. However, Jinan has handed over all these matters to Kuzan, and Kuzan is also responsible for solving the manpower problems. Kuzan, didn't I delegate all the power to you? Jinan held his forehead helplessly. Shouldn't you be able to handle those things easily? Why did you come to me again? Kuzan gave a bitter smile. Is it really okay to say this out loud? Admiral, our headquarters asked me to tell you in person that the Golden Lion may come to our South China Sea. This matter was indeed what our headquarters asked him to tell Jinan, but they did not ask him to tell it in person. He came to Jinan's residence at this time just to have a meal. As for the matter of the Golden Lion, he confirmed it with the person who conveyed the information to the headquarters, and it was just possible that it would come to the South China Sea, and there was also a high possibility that it would come to the East China Sea. After all, the East China Sea is known to be the weakest sea, both the pirates and the Navy are very weak. For the Golden Lion who wants to recuperate, the East China Sea is his first choice. Golden Lion? He is seriously injured. Even if he comes to the South China Sea, he won't be able to do anything in a short period of time. You just need to arrange a team of Navy to patrol the South China Sea regularly. The injured Golden Lion will definitely be on high alert, so it is not realistic to find his location in a short time. However, ask all islands to be on guard. If an island or something similar disappears inexplicably, report it as soon as possible. Jinan warned. Got it. I will carry out your instructions. Kuzan saluted. Oh, by the way, Long happens to be here too. Jinan patted his head. From now on, you two can consult each other, and the affairs of the South China Sea will be left to you." Long and Quzhan looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Long said a little embarrassedly, "Admiral, so far, I have only done the work of catching pirates and handling affairs. I may not be able to do it well. Otherwise, I should focus on catching pirates." When Long was at the headquarters, he had no experience with management-related matters. He was good at leading troops in battles, and he was also self-aware when it came to handling affairs. P.S. The Revolutionary Army commanded by Long only attacked the kingdoms and then elected a prestigious person from their own country to take power, without fundamentally solving the problems of those kingdoms. Long. Do you still remember that Karp asked you to come to my reasonable destination code? Jinan asked. Long said without hesitation, Vice Admiral Garp asked me to learn from you. As he spoke, he also reacted. Yes, you must learn how to manage the island and pay attention to people's livelihood. Jinan emphasized. But... Long was still a little hesitant. Jinan shouted, no buts. Everyone learned this way, slowly from scratch. Don't think you can achieve success overnight. If you don't know how to do it, you can ask Quzhan and the others for help. You have to remember that the wise are your teachers. There is something worth learning from everyone. Jinan patted his shoulder and encouraged him, I believe you will be able to grow into a capable naval commander. Feeling Jinan's strong expectations, Long's eyes instantly became moist. What a great expectation, what a great trust in him. If I still refuse like this, wouldn't I be letting Jinan down? At this moment, he seemed to have found the guiding light of his life. Long answered loudly, I will learn from them. Jinan nodded with satisfaction, feeling extremely excited. He also managed to trick another worker into doing the job, which relieved some of his stress. Cool. Jinan secretly glanced at the energetic Long. The Navy of the South China Sea can do things like exterminating pirates. It is better to leave the professional work of handling affairs to professionals like Long and Quzhan, who have the qualifications. The future generals and leaders of the Revolutionary Army all have their own strengths. Work is important, but cultivation cannot be put aside. Jinan reminded, the same goes for you, do you hear me, Quzhan? Got it. Got it, they both answered at the same time. The education that Long received since childhood has been about being an elite. Once he makes up his mind, he will work hard to achieve it. Quzhan wants to stay with Jinan forever, so improving his strength is the only way for him. Admiral, when can we have dinner? I haven't tasted your cooking for a long time. Quzhan said a little embarrassedly. Jinan shook his head and smiled, I knew you had ulterior motives, and you exposed them so quickly. It's just a free meal, you make it seem like I've done something bad. Quzhan laughed. The six of them gathered together, sitting around a spacious dining table with laughter and chattering all around. The table was filled with a variety of delicious food, the aroma was mouth-watering, the lighting in the room was soft, and the warm atmosphere made people feel comfortable and happy. Looking around at the sumptuous food carefully prepared on the table, Quzhan said with a smile, it's been a long time since I saw you prepare such a large table of dishes. This time we are in for a treat. Long looked at the table filled with all kinds of dishes, why haven't I seen these dishes before? Just eat your food, why are you talking so much? Quzhan picked up a piece of food with chopsticks and put it in Long's bowl. You can't eat these things outside the kingdom of Salbi. Long took a bite and immediately felt the taste lingering on his lips and teeth, it's so delicious. There are also many special foods in this world, such as water meat, seafood rice, and natural grilled lizard meat, but none of them quite suit Jinan's taste, so he could only cultivate some vegetable seasonings himself. It can only be said that the products of the system must be high quality. These things he cultivated have become the specialty of the Salbi kingdom. Part of his military expenditure comes from selling these things. Marineford, Naval Headquarters Medical Room. Sengoku, you almost got into trouble this time. Garp said gloatingly. Sengoku was annoyed when he heard the sound of Garp chewing senbei, you bastard, stop bothering me here. I finally found some time to come and see you, but I didn't expect you to not appreciate it. Garp said dissatisfiedly, we enlisted together, so please don't hurt my feelings. Veins bulged on Zhang Guo's forehead. You still know that you and I are from the same period. How come you were nowhere to be seen when I asked you to help me annihilate the Golden Lion? Garp knew he was in the wrong, and whispered back, I didn't catch up in the East China Sea. You're still here to piss me off even though you didn't catch up. Zhang Guo was so angry that his chest hurt. He sighed, let's not talk about this anymore. If CP hadn't intervened this time, I might not have been able to come back. Garp frowned, with your strength, you shouldn't be in such a miserable state after beating a golden lion. No, I can't exert my full strength at sea. There are too many islands that Golden Lion controls with his power, and I can't take care of them all. Besides, he is not the only one on the Golden Lion side. Chapter 54 Discussion on Recruiting Soldiers. From what I've heard, there are quite a few people going there as well. Carp said hesitantly. Zhang Guo turned his head and looked out the window. But we lack people who can withstand the pressure. When the island fell, the people I brought with me were all busy with their own affairs and could not provide support to me. He faced all the members of the Golden Lion Haiku pirates alone. I think our navy must have some fresh blood. Judging from what we have seen in recent times, the up-and-coming pirates are far from being comparable to us. Zhang Guo's expression was a little bleak. Most of the kids nowadays are proud to go out to sea as pirates. The number and quality of pirates there are constantly improving. On the other hand, the growth of fresh blood on their pirate side is very slow, and the elite talents are mainly supplemented by naval families. It's totally difficult now. Ah? Is it that difficult? Garp was a little confused. I always thought that our combat power was pretty good. It seems that I thought too much. If he had known the difficulties the navy was facing now, he would have directly tricked that guy Jinan over here. I can recommend some people to you. Carp murmured, stroking his beard. Zhang Guo pushed the frog-shaped glasses above his nose and said, you are talking about Jinan, right? That guy's strength and ability are really good. He's a good seedling. Zhang Guo paused for a moment, as if thinking of something. According to the news from the South China Sea, this guy seems to be lazy now, and now he has left all the affairs of the South China Sea to his deputy Quzhan. This is not a good habit. Carp recalled his feelings when he was with Jinan, and it seemed that this trend had already appeared at that time. So I think it would be best to let him come to our headquarters to study for a while. However, he has only been in charge of the South China Sea for a short time, so we should wait and see. Zhang Guo thought that Jinan must gain a foothold in the entire South China Sea before leaving there. Otherwise, if prestige fails to be established, pirates may take advantage of the chaos at any time and destroy the good situation in the South China Sea. Just when both of them had made their decision, a powerful and majestic voice sounded outside the ward. I have also heard a little bit about that young man. I agree with you on this matter, but recruiting people is indeed urgent. Hearing this voice, the expressions of Sengoku and Garp changed immediately. Garp even stood up from his seat, his body straight. Even the smile on his face was instantly restrained, and his expression was respectful. Zhang Guo, who was lying in bed recuperating from his injuries, ignored the pain in his body and struggled to get up. There was only one person in the navy who could make both of them do this at the same time. The current admiral of the marine headquarters, Sora. The burly figure pushed open the door and walked in. There was deep fatigue on his face. But he still smiled when facing the two subordinates in front of him. Zhang Guo, with your current condition, you'd better just lie down and don't get up and cause me trouble. Gang Gu Kong scolded with a smile. Marshal Kong. Sengoku and Garp shouted respectfully at the same time. Are you feeling better, Sengoku? Cyborg Sora nodded to them. The navy suffered heavy casualties this time. Zhang Guo said in a bitter voice, it's all my fault. I apologize to you. No. Zhang Guo, I don't mean to pursue you. It's already very good that you can achieve this level on the sea. Gang Gu Kong shook his head and comforted him softly. Zhang Guo remained silent. His heart ached when he thought of the sailors who died in the battle. After this incident, many families lost their breadwinners. Those families probably hate him as the main person responsible in their hearts. Gang Gukong took in the look on Zhang Guo's face. How could he not feel uncomfortable in his heart? However, time keeps moving forward, and they have to prepare for the future generations and face the next challenges. I have discussed the Navy's recruitment with the 5 elders. Kong said with difficulty. Hearing this, Sengoku and Garp asked expectantly, how is it, have the 5 elders agreed? Steelbone Sora nodded first, then slowly shook his head. What do they mean, Marshal Kong? Please don't keep us in suspense. The impatient Carp asked directly. Sighing, Gang Gukong said with difficulty, they agreed to let us recruit Navy, but they will not pay for the extra Navy. Isn't this the same as not allowing us to expand our military? Garp said angrily. He totally couldn't understand the five elders' thoughts. A bitter smile appeared on Zhang Guo's lips. I guess we shouldn't have too high expectations on the world government's decisions. Although the five elders representing the world government gave me such a crappy answer, I still decided to issue a conscription notice to the whole world. Cyborg Kong's eyes were firm. He should do his job well. Since he is the admiral of the Navy headquarters, he should have the corresponding courage and live up to the word justice behind this uniform. But, we have absolutely no money. Most people in this world dream of becoming the pirate king. If we can't pay the salaries of the new recruits, there's no way we can recruit them. A good cook cannot cook without rice, and this is the situation of their navy now. I'll find a way to solve the money problem. Gang Yukong took out a cigar and lit it. Now the main thing is to find a way to attract capable people to join the navy. What the navy needs is a commander who can stand on his own. In this world full of pirates, although I don't want to admit it, it is a fact that it is difficult for ordinary navy to make a difference. Talent is hard to come by. I think we can put our heads together. Sengoku looked towards where Garp was standing. Garp slapped his thigh suddenly. That's right. Although Jinan can't come to the headquarters yet, he has a lot of ideas. It's okay to ask him to help come up with some ideas. Jinan does have this ability. Gang Yukong exhaled a puff of smoke, somewhat unconvinced. Zhang Guo was also a little unsure. There should be, maybe. That kid has a lot of ideas. Do you remember the things I will bring later? Cap was beaming with joy. Thinking of the delicious food that Garp brought back, Sengoku and Garp both swallowed their saliva. Of course I remember, we have never seen those foods before. Garp was speechless. I'm talking about chairs and other things that improve the quality of life. What chair? Sengoku and Cyborg Sora were confused, they had never seen what Garp was talking about. Looking at the reactions of the two people, Garp realized that he had let the cat out of the bag. Since they couldn't finish the food, he gave some to Sengoku and the others. As for the rest, he kept them all for himself. Those things are not important. I give these examples just to let you know that the boy has a strong imagination and can provide us with some help. Chapter 55 Recruitment Brochure. These old guys in this department have finally come to their senses. Having just finished his discussion with Zhang Guo and the others, Jinan smiled knowingly. The navy must form a strong and highly obedient team, otherwise it will only be buried with the world government during the age of discovery. This is obviously not the kind of thing Jinan wants to see. It's nice to lean on a big tree for shade, but how can he fish if the tree falls? It seems that Zhang Guo and the others have completely seen through the true face of the world government, so I don't have to waste my breath. Jinan rocked in the recliner, enjoying the peaceful years. Colonel Jinan, the warships are ready for sailing. Kuzan knocked on the door frame and waited at the door. Jinan picked up the tea and took a sip. His shaking body slowly stopped. He sighed imperceptibly and said leisurely, I know. Alas! I really don't want to move. This was his first voyage after becoming the Admiral of the South China Sea, and the destinations included but were not limited to the world government member states in the South China Sea. This means that he will have to spend a long time on the sea. In the medical room, after listening to Jinan's suggestions, everyone fell silent. They were all stunned by Jinan's ideas. They had never thought that conscription could be done in this way, which made them feel that at their age, they had not thought things through as thoroughly as the younger ones. What do you think of the measures Jinan just mentioned? Gang Gukong came out of his thoughts and looked at the people next to him. He was still thinking about the ideas Jinan had just given them. Yes, she was also called to the infirmary by Kong Gang to participate in the discussion about conscription. I think the method proposed by Jinan has certain reference value. Zhang Guo fully affirmed Jinan's proposal. First, we should emphasize ideology and show the importance of participating in the conscription for maintaining the country and protecting the homeland, so that people can realize that their participation is crucial to the stability and security of the entire society. Secondly, we should maintain information transparency and strengthen communication, provide detailed information, explain the purpose, background, and significance of conscription, and enhance people's understanding and support for conscription policies through interaction with the public, thus improving the legitimacy and acceptability of conscription actions. Finally, tell them about the social recognition and honor of joining the military, give them the respect and honor they deserve, and through social recognition and honor, inspire people's sense of pride and mission, and enhance their willingness to participate in conscription. These measures can fully mobilize people's emotions, make them feel that there are many benefits to joining the Navy, and give them the motivation to try. Zhang Guo summarized the measures proposed by Jinan, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that these methods could be implemented. I totally agree with all the measures he mentioned. Let's implement them. When I heard what that kid said, I felt so excited that I couldn't wait to join the army again. Cap simply waved his hand and expressed his inner excitement with gestures and dance. I agree, but Jinan also mentioned one point. Promise to provide reasonable treatment and benefits, including salary, medical insurance, family support, etc., to attract people to actively respond to the call for conscription. Can Marshal Kong do this? He folded her arms across her chest. She knew the amount of money the Navy could mobilize, so she took a wait-and-see attitude towards this. Hearing Crane's question, everyone in the infirmary looked at Cyborg Sora. Zia, I don't like what you said. Gang Yukong put out his cigar. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. He has not been the naval marshal for all these years in vain, he must have some ways to make money. Of course, just in case, you can also join the money-making army. Gang Gukong coughed lightly, there is strength in numbers, so you can help me share some of the burden. In fact, it doesn't cost much just to recruit Navy personnel. The bulk of the money goes into the equipment and training of the Navy. Equipment refers not only to swords, guns, and uniforms, but also warships. Most of the world is ocean, and the Navy will be unable to move forward without warships. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. When Karp heard about money, he ran faster than anyone else. I'm your boss. You should think about the consequences of disobeying orders. Cyborg Kong stated the ironclad facts in a calm tone. He always kept his word. If Garp really dared to run away, he would make that guy a general in the next moment. But old man Kong, I really have no money. Karp said with a bitter face, emptying his trouser pockets with both hands. Kong said angrily, do you still need me to teach you how to make money? You can pretend to be a bounty hunter. There are so many pirates on the sea. Can't you catch them and exchange them for money? Anyway, the money comes from the world government. The air was somewhat silent, and Gang Gukong found that the three people in the room were looking at him with puzzled expressions. Well, I just mentioned a way to make money quickly, but I haven't done it before. Gang Gukong believes that he is diligent and down-to-earth in his work and life. If he were not forced by life, he would never do such a thing. The three people looked at him silently. They thought he must have done this before, so he said this. But it is indeed a way to make money quickly. Then we'll go ahead and see if there's anything else we can do to recruit more Marines. Although he did not quite agree with the method proposed by Kong Gangwu, there was no better way given the current situation. After all, the Navy is really short of money now. I don't want to go out. It's not my turn when good things happen. You have to call me when it comes to this kind of time. Doflamingo looked reluctant. He had finally found something interesting to do in the kingdom of Salbi, and brought his younger brother Rosinante along. But now, because of Jinan's order, his plan was going to fail. Brother, I still have classes to go to. You can go out with Colonel Jinan without worry. Rosinante said excitedly. After Doflamingo left, no one forced him to do those weird things. He discovered the benefits of attending classes, his classmates were good-looking and spoke nicely, the teachers were serious and responsible, and the lectures were very interesting. Now if you ask him not to go to class, he won't be happy about it. He loves school. Learning makes him happy. You. Doflamingo pointed his finger at his brother, feeling betrayed. Everything had been decided beforehand, but a traitor appeared among them. Looking at his brother's murderous eyes, Rosinante unconsciously shrank behind Jinan. Jinan touched Rosinante's head. This little guy was much more likable than Doflamingo, and he had a very good relationship with Shanks. Now they had become good brothers, and they might even want to become sworn brothers. I'm doing this for your own good. Jinan said earnestly, it would be better for you to go out and see the world more often. Then why don't they have to follow you out? Doflamingo pointed at Kuma and the others who came to see him off in indignation. Jinan scratched his head, they still have things to do. Doflamingo still wanted to struggle. Nothing good would happen if he followed Jinan. Last time he was made a slave, and God knows what strange things were waiting for him next time. Why so many questions? Jinan grabbed his clothes and dragged him directly onto the warship. Chapter 56, Whitewash the Peace. When will this day end? Jinan was sitting on a boat, in the middle of the sea. He sat quietly by the side of the boat, feeling the cool breeze on his face, closing his eyes, and listening to the sound of waves hitting the hull. In front of him was the endless sea with turbulent waves that seemed to never reach the end. On the sea, the waves rose and fell, sometimes gently brushing the side of the ship, and sometimes surging forward. "I told you I don't want to come out." Doflamingo continued to complain with a look of despair on his face. The vastness of the sea inspires awe, as if standing on the edge of endless time, gazing into the unknown distance. But in this boundless ocean, people also feel endless loneliness, as if they are the only existence in the ocean, isolated from the whole world. "I really can't understand it. I could have just lay down at home and rested, drank some tea and enjoyed life. But all my plans have gone down the drain because of you." Doflamingo glared at Jinan at the side of the ship. The strong never complain about the environment. Jinan took off his sunglasses and said lightly. It would have been fine if Jinan hadn't said anything, but as soon as he did, Doflamingo exploded. "When did you think of me as a strong person? And I'm still a child." His current situation was just like the saying that when he followed Jinan, he would go hungry for 5 meals in 3 days. Although he was not starving, he felt it was more painful than going hungry for 5 meals. They have now toured more than 10 countries. Doflamingo is really sick of the days at sea. Every day, all he sees is the sea. "Don't you like the sea?" Doflamingo knew who was coming, and when he turned around he saw a tall man standing behind him. Seeing him, Doflamingo's complexion was obviously much better. On this warship, Kuzan gave him the best feeling. He would come to chat with him every day, which prevented him from being so bored. The warship is full of Navy personnel, and everyone has their own things to do. He was left alone with nothing to do. Except for the guy who lies on a recliner all day without moving. Looking at the man on the chair, Doflamingo was reminded of a word his mother had told him before, which seemed to be mountain waste. No matter how beautiful something is, you will get bored if you look at it every day. Doflamingo asked back, "You don't seem to be so resistant to being out at sea for a long time." Kuzan nodded and confirmed what Doflamingo said. "Of course, because I know that I can do a lot of meaningful things every time I go out to sea." "Something meaningful?" Doflamingo smiled with an ambiguous smile, "But after observing for some time, I feel that many kingdoms like to do superficial things. In order to deal with the naval inspections, each kingdom showed their best side and used superficial prosperity to cover up the peace." Kuzan's face was heavy and he did not refute. He must have discovered what Doflamingo said, but he had no way to change these things. No one can change. "Don't you feel tired talking about these things all day long?" Jinan asked lazily. "A peace that is whitewashed is still peace. At least those countries will cover it up. If they are too lazy to even cover it up, either the country is on the verge of destruction, or those people no longer take the law seriously." Jinan takes everything very lightly. In life, one should shine as brightly as one has the energy he has. Our Colonel Jinan is the one who sees things more clearly. Doflamingo gave a false compliment. Jinan glanced in his direction. This kid's character might not change. He would just go crazy if he wasn't punished. Kuzan looked at Jinan lying dead on the deck chair at the side of the ship and said helplessly, "If you lie down again, you will leave a bad impression on the Navy." In his eyes, Jinan was good in every way except that he was too lazy, which destroyed the image of the tall and majestic figure in his mind. The childhood filter is almost exhausted now. "Don't talk nonsense." Jinan's posture didn't change at all. He had a good idea of how he was viewed by the Navy. The wind from the South China Sea is always so noisy. When it blows over people's bodies, it also carries the power to corrode people's hearts. That's why he is so lazy. Jinan is convinced of this in his heart. So, he chose to continue lying down. Kuzan had no idea what to do with a person who had no desires. Although a forced melon is not sweet, it can quench thirst, but there is nothing in the melon. What can Kuzan do? Kuzan shook his head helplessly and turned to Doflamingo and said, "You must not become like this in the future." Doflamingo put away his surprised expression and nodded seriously. "You seem bored, so why not practice with me from now on? You have good aptitude, so you should make good use of it." Kuzan came up with a brilliant idea and told Doflamingo directly. "What?" Doflamingo was dumbfounded and stood there, eating the melon on himself. "Let's start tomorrow." You should prepare yourself today. Kyuzan said seriously, Navy training is very hard. I will supervise you well. The good seedlings will grow up under his training, and he will also have a bright future. When he thought of the envious, jealous, and hateful expressions on the faces of those people in the future Navy looking at him, Kyuzan couldn't help but beam with joy. It's agreed. Kyuzan left immediately. He needs to be well prepared and train hard tomorrow. Ha 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 ha. Doflamingo glared at the place where the laughter came from. What's so funny? Nothing, I just thought of something funny. Jinan wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes and spoke intermittently. You wait for me. Doflamingo gritted his teeth and ran into the cabin. Isn't it just naval training? It can't be anything serious. He just doesn't believe that a mere training can do anything to him. Jinan closed his eyes and dozed off, but his mind was filled with another thing. The note from the system reward told him to go to the current sea area in half a month, saying that there would be information about the missing island. He also asked the navigator to take a long detour to the sea area adjacent to the doldrums. Not only did they find nothing, but the place was also extremely desolate and they were the only lone boat on the ocean. The disappeared island. Jinan murmured. He believed that anything that could be awarded by the system must have some special meaning. Killing the celestial dragons was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but it was also the choice that best suited his heart. Moreover, at the moment of the death of the celestial dragon, the system, which had not given rewards for a long time, rewarded a lot of good things for the first time. That's why he stayed here. He was ready to wait in order to find the island. Chapter 57 Sea King Attack. Driven by the sea breeze, the huge warship was speeding across the sea at an exaggerated speed. 2000 push UPS, I finished. The childish voice reported weakly with deep fatigue. Kyuzan nodded. As expected, this young man was the one he had chosen. He finished the job earlier than he expected. Well done, join me for the next exercise. Doflamingo supported his body with his shaking hands, turned his body over, and said bitterly. Can I say no? He felt that his hands were no longer under his control, and if he continued to exercise, he would die. Dover, you have to believe in yourself. It's just 2000 push UPS. This is just the beginning. I believe you can complete the next training task. Kyuzan encouraged. He also trained with Doflamingo, and he increased the amount of training several times compared to Doflamingo, which was not even considered a warm-up for him. Come on, Dover, I'm rooting for you. Jinan added fuel to the fire. The more painful this kid is, the happier he is. He is a professional at watching others get humiliated. Doflamingo didn't even have the strength to raise his hand. He simply ignored Jinan's words and breathed in deep breaths. The next step is to climb the mast. I look forward to your performance. Jinan looked at the 40-meter-high mast and mercilessly told Doflamingo about his next training program. What? Doflamingo looked at the mast not far away that seemed to be connected to the sky and exclaimed. It seems like I'm going to die here today. However, at this moment, an accident happened. Roar! A huge roar rang out, like a cry from the abyss of hell, shocking everyone on the warship. The sailors looked at each other, expressions of horror appearing on their faces. At this moment, the sea seemed to have transformed into a giant beast, lurking with unimaginable threats. The oppressive feeling of the roar was like an invisible mountain, pressing directly on everyone's heart and making them feel unable to breathe. What's going on? Are there any sea kings passing by? The warship was sailing too close to the doldrums, and they knew there was a certain probability of encountering sea kings living nearby. See where the big guy that made the sound is, the navigator commanded. Upon hearing this, the investigator picked up the telescope and tried to check where the sound came from, but he only saw surging waves and vast water, with no signs of anything unusual. However, the existence of monsters has filled everyone's heart with fear without words. After all, the unknown is the most terrifying. A young sailor pointed a trembling finger into the distance and stammered, there is something, under the ship. His voice was trembling, and his psychological defenses seemed like they could collapse at any moment. The navigator had a serious look on his face. He took a deep breath and tried to keep his voice calm, prepare to avoid this area. Everyone, enter combat mode immediately. The sailors acted according to the orders. Although their movements were hurried, they revealed a sense of order. The ship's weapons were quickly checked, defensive measures were urgently deployed, and everyone was doing their best to prepare for possible danger. At this moment, a tense and solemn atmosphere permeated the warship, and everyone's heart was stretched tight, ready to deal with unknown threats that might emerge from the deep ocean at any time. Don't panic, turn the ship around and head in another direction. Jin An's steady voice soothed everyone on the warship. His calmness gave all the Navy members peace of mind, and they handled their respective tasks in an orderly manner. The ship urgently changed direction and tried to quickly leave the dangerous area. However, the sea seemed to have been aroused to its violent side by the existence of the monster. The waves began to roll and surge, obstructing the navigation of the ship. So what if it's a sea king? He's just a stinky fish causing trouble under the sea. If Colonel Jinan catches up with him, he can easily subdue him. The sailors shouted loudly, using words to dispel the panic in their hearts. The ship swayed violently with the ups and downs of the waves. The crew members struggled to keep their feet steady and tried their best to maintain the steady sailing of the ship. Snapped! The waves were like a huge wall, rushing towards the ship again and again, and the splashing sea water hit the side of the ship like sharp blades, making a harsh sound. The ship tried hard to cross the turbulent waves, but its forward speed became slow and difficult due to the obstruction of the waves. The bow was often submerged by high waves, splashing water and making navigation more difficult. The stern was pushed by the waves and was tossed violently, as if it was going to throw everyone on the ship into the sea. As the warship shook violently, a black shadow whose outline could not be seen at a glance cut through the sea surface and rushed into the sky. Wow! The sea monsters crashed into the sea, creating huge waves hundreds of meters high, and sea water poured down from the sky like heavy rain. Hold on! Hold on! The sailors' angry shouts rose one after another. Looking at the huge waves before them, they deeply felt the insignificance of human beings. This is already bigger than an ordinary island. Doflamingo opened his mouth wide. I told you, every time I go out with that bastard Jinan, nothing good will happen. Wow, what a big guy! Just when everyone was about to give up, a voice that was calm and reassuring suddenly sounded. Hearing this voice, the panicked hearts of the Navy officers calmed down, and then they couldn't help but look at the owner of the voice. Jinan was seen standing at the bow holding a goose feather knife, looking at the huge sea king in front of him with great interest. The sailors stared at the protagonist silently, with a feeling of pride in their hearts. They firmly believed that as long as Jinan was there, they could overcome any difficulties and obstacles, even the huge monster in front of them. I know you have wisdom that is not inferior to that of humans. Jinan said slowly, if you leave now, I can forgive you for what happened. The Sea King looked down arrogantly at the tiny humans in front of him, who were as small as insects, with disdain in his heart. He had been wandering in the windless belt for so many years, and he had brought despair to countless people. This was the first time he had seen someone who was not afraid of death. It seems you don't appreciate it. Jinan shook his head regretfully. He didn't expect that he had such a big head, but his IQ was not that good. There shouldn't be any bad consequences from killing this big guy, right? Jinan asked while looking at the crowd behind him. Jin An's words stunned everyone. The monster that they thought was invincible was like a lamb to be slaughtered in the colonel's mouth. Colonel Jinan, please take action. Our strength is not enough to shake the Sea King in front of us. Kuzan is one of the only two people present who is not afraid of Sea Kings, but with his current strength he is still completely unable to resolve the crisis in front of him. However, just as he finished speaking, Kuzan felt a flash before his eyes, and when he reacted, Jinan was no longer in front of him. Colonel Jinan. Jinan's action scared Kuzan. He knew that Jinan was a devil fruit user. This was the sea. If he accidentally fell into the sea, wouldn't it be the end of him? Chapter 58, One Knife Cuts Two. The sea breeze whistled past, creating surging waves, as if cheering for the battle that was about to break out. Jinan tightly grasped the hilt of the knife, feeling the breath of the giant in front of him. His body and mind seemed to be integrated with the knife in his hand, and with every agitation, the edge of the blade seemed to tremble. Jinan pulled the knife out of the sheath. Chiang! In this vast sea, the crisp sound of the sword is clear and loud, like a long piano sound, conveying the determination to kill to the distance. Jinan waved his hand, and the blade cut through the air like lightning, making a sharp sound, as if tearing the fragile membrane of time and space. His movements were fierce and sharp, and every swing seemed to split the entire sea in half. The astonishing sound of the sword was like the roar of heaven and earth collapsing, shaking the entire sea surface and making the waves seem to stop breathing. The sound of swords had never been so clear. You have to know that this was on the endless ocean. Kuzan and the other sailors could not believe their ears. The Sea King seemed to have also sensed the power of the protagonist. It paused for a moment, with a hint of surprise in its eyes. But this moment of stagnation was only a moment, and then an even stronger sense of destruction emerged in its eyes. It raised its huge body as if to crush the entire sky. Jinan was not afraid at all. There was a burning light flashing in his eyes. He even licked his lips. The Sea King in front of him was already his prey. So far, he had not tasted what it felt like to eat a Sea King. Roar! The Sea King in front of him was huge and powerful. Its body was like a moving mountain, covered with thick scales and shining with a metallic luster. His eyes were shining brightly and filled with murderous intent, as if he wanted to eat the protagonist alive. Jinan soared into the air, holding a sharp blade, the blade flashing, like a flash of lightning that cuts through the night sky and lights up the rolling sea. The dazzling white light illuminated the entire world. At that moment, even the sun's rays were obscured. Looking at the sword mark that pierced through the sky and the earth, Doflamingo felt like his jaw was about to drop to the ground. Wow! On the warship, the sailors gathered on the deck opened their mouths and screamed in shock, because right before their eyes, a huge knife mark appeared in their pupils like a miracle. And where the knife cut through, the giant Sea King that made them despair was actually split in two. Before the giant Sea King had time to feel the pain, its body began to shake, and finally it fell heavily on the sea surface, stirring up huge waves. The blood instantly dyed the sea red. The sailors looked at Jinan's figure on the sea. The figure stood in the air above the sea like a god, with the coat behind him fluttering in the wind. They witnessed this fleeting battle and the ease with which Jinan killed the giant Sea King. Their awe for Jinan was like a surging river that could not be stopped. At the moment the giant Sea King fell, the navy seemed to release the huge pressure that had been pent up in their hearts all at once. They stared at Jinan in amazement, their eyes full of shock and awe. This is simply incredible. He is worthy of being Colonel Jinan. His swordsmanship and his courage are beyond my imagination. I've never seen anyone who can face such a huge monster so calmly. He is my idol. Jinan was floating on the sea, but he was worried at this moment. He felt like he had a treasure mountain but couldn't get it. This thing is too big. The warship can't fit it at all. What should we do? Colonel Jinan, are you checking your trophies? I didn't expect he would be so handsome even at this moment, said the female navy on the warship with admiration. Kuzan looked at the navy around him and smiled self-deprecatingly. He was worried about Jinan's image in the navy's mind before, but he didn't expect that things are unpredictable. Behind him, the huge Sea King corpse became as small as sand, and Jinan could only take away the most delicious part of its meat. As for the rest, Jinan could only give it up with tears. He moved his standing position from the bow to the stern, and only when the Sea King disappeared did he reluctantly look away. Doflamingo couldn't understand Jinan's mentality. He had accomplished such a great thing, but in the end he was so reluctant to part with the meat of the Sea King. I want to become like you. There was a gleam in Doflamingo's eyes, which was an admiration for the strong and a desire for strength. What? Jinan couldn't understand what Doflamingo said. I mean, I want to become as strong as you. This is the first time I feel what a truly strong person is like. I want to have the power to subvert everything. Doflamingo imagined the future. He wants to pull those celestial dragons who claim to be descendants of God off their thrones, and trample them under his feet. Now, the road to becoming stronger has been paved under his feet. As long as he follows Jinan, he believes that the future in his heart will come true. Jinan looked at the boy in front of him who started to giggle after he finished speaking, feeling a little confused and silently distanced himself from him. How many things are you hiding from me? Kuzan's voice sounded faintly in Jinan's ears. He thought he knew Jinan well enough, he was his little fan after all, and he knew Jinan could defeat a Sea King, but he didn't expect that he would be defeated in one move. Fuck. Jinan was frightened. Can you please not speak in that tone? I'm scared. Why does the tone sound so much like that of a girl who was abandoned by a scumbag? It's amazing how a grown man can speak so resentfully. Jinan crossed his arms and felt goosebumps all over his body. He hesitated for a moment and replied, as for my strength, it's okay. If you're like me, I should be able to beat 10 of them. Forward. There were many navy officers around, and they were also curious about Jinan's strength. However, they did not expect to hear such an exciting description. When did Kuzan become a unit of measurement? They had never dared to imagine such a thing before. I really can't understand you anymore. I wonder what your strength will be like next time I see you take action. Before we knew it, darkness enveloped the sea. The sea is shrouded in darkness, and its vastness seems to contain endless mysteries and dangers. The moonlight penetrated the gaps in the clouds, casting a faint silver-white light, like a bright moon in the sky sprinkling on the surging sea. However, this faint light only barely illuminated a small area of the sea, while other places were still shrouded in darkness. On this dark sea, the waves surged, making low whistling sounds, as if a group of bound beasts were calling for some unknown power. Or the unknown creatures hidden in the deep sea, looming in the darkness, giving people a mysterious and uneasy feeling. Gone was the bright sunshine and clear blue sky of the day, replaced by a deep and sinister atmosphere. When people sail on this sea at night, they feel as if they are in a world full of unknowns and dangers, where every shadow may hide a deadly threat. Young men, there is a warship ahead. It's your turn to show off your skills. Chapter 59 Boarding Battle. Under the cover of night, the sea is like a black ribbon that separates the sky and the earth. A mysterious atmosphere permeates the sea, as if hiding countless unknown dangers. The sea at night seems like a bottomless abyss, even things that are close at hand are swallowed up by the darkness. Behind the warship, a dark shadow quietly approached, and a huge pirate ship glided on the water like a ghost. Its sails disappeared into the darkness, leaving only a deep outline. Captain Lit, the shells have been loaded. A pirate hurried to the bow and reported to the man holding the telescope. Lit, whose bounty is 2,500 million berries, is also a notorious pirate in the South China Sea. He led his pirate group to attack many innocent merchant ships and naval fleets, making people terrified. On the bridge of the pirate ship, Lit stood at the bow, ambition and desire burning in his eyes. He narrowed his eyes, his fingers tightly gripping the boat's handrail, waiting for the right time. Behind him, a group of pirates armed with weapons and ferocious and arrogant were waiting for his orders. Understood. Lit stretched out his fingers to feel the change in wind direction, then raised his eyebrows. It's time to take action. Suddenly, Li Tuk gave the order to attack. Roger that. The pirates stared at the warships ahead like wild beasts. They paddled silently and pounced on the naval fleet. Lit chuckled and thought that after robbing the warship, they could live happily for a long time. Oh? I didn't expect there are still pirates who don't know how to live or die. Jinnen's face looked a little strange. How could there be pirates in this remote place? Quzhan was also puzzled when he heard this. There seems to be no island nearby? Could it be that they are too weak and can only hide here? But Quzhan quickly denied this idea. It was obviously impossible for a weak person to attack the navy. Jinnen ate a lot for dinner and now doesn't feel like moving. You go and take care of it. Upon hearing this, Quzhan put on his coat and walked towards the deck in his leather shoes, his steps steady and powerful. To be honest, in the entire South China Sea, as long as Jinnen does not take action, Quzhan has never been afraid of anyone. Everyone, brace yourself. The pirates are coming our way. Without hesitation, he immediately ordered his men to get ready. The naval soldiers did not dare to be careless and responded immediately, busying themselves adjusting the fleet's defensive layout to prepare for possible attacks. The pirates on the pirate ship noticed the unusual movements on the warship, and a trace of cruelty flashed across their faces. Lit stood at the bow, his eyes full of violence. He knew that he had to take action now. Are you ready? Lit's voice was cold and firm. His hands were tightly gripping the side of the boat, and his eyes were scanning the situation on the sea. We're ready, the pirates shouted in unison, their eyes burning with the flames of battle as they faced the impending fight without fear. Lit said decisively, fire. Boom. Following Lit's order, the cannons on the pirate ship roared in unison, illuminating the dark night sky, and the flames reflected the surging waves. Quzhan stared at the shells fired from the pirate ship and rushed to the front of the warship without hesitation. He focused on controlling his abilities, and his hands began to gather strength, emitting a light blue light. The chill spread so widely that the sailors on the warship shivered with cold. Suddenly, icy blue rays of light shot out from under his feet, cutting through the sky like sharp blades. Ice cube, 2 thorn spears. The ice spears spun rapidly, and a biting cold air spread. The shells fired from the pirate ship were hit by the ice cones before approaching the navy fleet. Dazzling rays of light flashed, and the shells were frozen into a piece of crystal clear ice, then fell into the sea, splashing waves. Lieutenant Colonel Quzhan blocked the enemy shells. The sailors witnessed Kuzan's performance and couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration in their hearts. Now it's time for us to fight back. Their navy is the best at using cannons, and unlike pirates, they have plenty of ammunition. The situation reversed in an instant, and dozens of cannons were aimed at the pirate ship. With a huge roar, the shells hit the pirate ship hard, causing huge waves. The pirate's ship was shaking on the sea, and it seemed that it was in danger of being sunk at any time. "Captain, the Navy's artillery fire is too strong and has completely suppressed us." The pirates were miserable. "There are also people with special abilities on the other side who have neutralized all our attacks." Lit frowned, knowing that the long-range attack tactics had failed. Fortunately, with the crew's persistent paddling, their boat was already very close to the warship. "Fire the flash bomb and prepare for boarding." In naval battles, boarding is a very dangerous way of fighting that requires crew members to have superb combat skills. Their pirate group is just good at this kind of combat. The pirates took immediate action. The crossbowmen on the ship raised their flash grenades. They lit the fuses skillfully and threw the flash grenades at the Navy fleet. Suddenly, dazzling rays of light burst out in the night sky, illuminating the entire sea and dazzling the Navy. "Push it to me." Lit waved his weapons and led the pirates to charge bravely at the Navy fleet. "Kill." While the flash bomb was still in effect, the pirates pounced down like wild beasts, stepped on the bridge made of iron chains, and rushed towards the hull of the Navy fleet. There was a cunning light in Lit's eyes. He waved the sword in his hand coldly and rushed to the deck of the warship. "Ha ha ha ha, prepare to die, sailors. I'm Lit, here to send you off." He knew that this was a decisive battle, and only by completely defeating the naval fleet could he achieve victory and seize greater spoils. "Don't you take me seriously?" Kuzan's eyes flashed coldly. "Don't look back, your men can't get through." Ding! The iron chain connecting the two ships made a crisp sound, and the pirates standing on it fell into the sea together. "You!" Lit looked at the ice blade in the other person's hand and swallowed. "I think we can sit down and talk." At the same time, a huge figure was swimming deep in the sea. It was attracted by the light of the flash bomb and gradually approached the water surface. As the deep sea monster approaches, the pirates find that the world becomes brighter, as if it is dawn. As for the Navy, most of them still had their eyes closed. The effect of the flash bomb had not yet worn off. "It's dawn?" the pirate asked, puzzled. They instinctively felt that something was wrong. It was only midnight and the sun was still sleeping. What could have caused the sky to look like this? Just when everyone was confused, the sea water began to surge continuously, the waves on the sea surface were turbulent, and a huge whirlpool was formed. The next moment, a huge column of water suddenly rose from the sea surface, and like the hand of Poseidon, it overturned the pirate ship in an instant, splashing water everywhere, causing exclamations and chaos. The pirates were splashed everywhere by the fierce water current, some were swallowed by the sea water, and some were hit by the water columns, resulting in heavy casualties. The warship was not in a much better condition. Its hull was tilted and was about to be overturned by the sea. The people in the naval fleet grabbed the railings in panic. The battle between the two sides was interrupted by this sudden deep-sea threat. They all looked up at the chaotic situation on the sea with terrified expressions. The deep-sea monster swam leisurely, with a cold light flashing in its eyes, as if staring at the frozen sea surface. Its existence made the entire sea area more dangerous and mysterious. Chapter 60 Green Dragon. Ice Age. Kuzan put his palms close to the sea surface. The sea surface quickly froze and the warship was frozen at a very dangerous angle. The pirates were not so lucky. With their terrified eyes, they couldn't even beg for mercy and were instantly frozen into ice sculptures. Saved. The Marines let go of their hands and landed smoothly on the ice. "Don't let your guard down," Kuzan warned. "The guy who attacked us must still be under the sea." "Why do I feel like this guy in the sea is causing more harm than the Sea King we encountered yesterday?" The sailors were still in shock as they looked at the icicles tens of meters high beside them. "This place is too close to the doldrums. We have encountered danger twice in such a short period of time. I think we can leave the sea area. Wait for Colonel Jinnan's notification." What happened in the past 2 days has left them with lingering fears, but this is their job and it is common for them to be in danger. Boom! There was a violent vibration on the ice surface, and the sailors who were chatting were startled and thought that the monster in the sea had come again. "Let's all get on board." A familiar voice came, and the sailors looked at each other and looked towards where the warship was staying. The thick ice beneath the warship began to break into pieces, and the warship recovered from its shaky state. Even in the direction of advance, the ice just happened to reveal a straight route. Yet! Long live Colonel Jinan! The sailors cheered, lined up in an orderly queue, and climbed up the ladder lowered from the warship. Beneath the frozen sea surface, the giant beast hiding in the dark deep sea finally found the culprit who deceived it. Roar! With a roar, he suddenly broke free from the ice on the sea, and ice and water splashed everywhere. Boom! With a deafening roar, the giant beast leaped out of the water. A figure over 100 meters tall rose into the air, and a dazzling light bulb in front of the fish head dispelled the darkness on the sea. It turned out to be a lanternfish that was so huge that it was beyond imagination. This giant lanternfish has a majestic figure and a powerful body, and its scales glow with a deep reddish-brown light, as if it is a mysterious creature from ancient times. Just what species of lanternfish? The warship is not even as big as one of its teeth. The naval soldiers on the sea watched this scene in amazement. They could not help but be shocked by the appearance of this huge monster. Moreover, the majestic aura of this giant lanternfish is unbelievable, as if it is the real ruler of the ocean. Kyuzan, freeze the waves! Jinan said in a deep voice. When the lanternfish fell from the sky, it created a wave that was several times more terrifying than a tsunami. Unfortunately, before Kyuzan could deal with the huge waves covering the warship, the lanternfish in the sea let out another roar. It's too late. Kyuzan looked anxious. In this vast ocean, if the warship is damaged, even if they survive the attack of the lanternfish, they will not be able to escape death. Under the majesty of the giant lanternfish, the ocean seemed to have fallen silent, with only the roar of the giant echoing in the night sky. It is the undisputed overlord of the sea, in charge of the lives of all creatures in this sea area. Ding! System side quest released. Fight with Lantern Zama and ensure the safety of the Navy. Mission rewards, a certain amount of training time, a random devil fruit, Bailey, store points plus. Host, please be careful, this opponent is more powerful than you can imagine. Jinan finally understood the meaning of the information given by the system. The culprit that swallowed the island is this lanternfish in the sea. After closing the system panel, Jinan smiled bitterly. The monster in front of him was one of the largest monsters that had ever appeared in the pirate world. The skin of this monster might be tens of meters thick. Jinan didn't know whether his current strength could shake this behemoth. Kyuzan, the safety of the Navy is now in your hands. Jinan tore off his coat and said, Dover, you have to concentrate on your training while I'm away. I'll come to check on you later. You are. Kyuzan hesitated. Don't be so stubborn. Doflamingo was also anxious, I'm still waiting for you to teach me some powerful moves. You have my life card. Jinan smiled confidently, I will not fail. Kyuzan understood what he meant. The life card could tell whether Jinan was safe. He was going to fight the huge lanternfish to buy them a chance of survival. Roar! As the giant lanternfish roared, the ocean seemed to be stirred up by huge waves, with howling winds and surging waves. At this moment, Jinan's body slowly rose into the air amid everyone's astonished gazes. Jinan, who was floating in the air, felt a strange force surging in his body, carrying him up into the air. Under the gaze of everyone, Jinan's body continued to grow larger, and his body gradually merged with the clouds. He felt a powerful energy surging in his body. His eyes were twinkling with a strange light, and he seemed to be undergoing a long-awaited transformation. At the same time, a giant lanternfish rushed out of the sea, its body towering like a huge mountain. Its eyes flashed with fierce light and it let out a deafening roar, as if venting its inner dissatisfaction. Then, the giant lanternfish swung its tail, and a huge whirlpool suddenly formed on the sea surface, swallowing everything in the ocean, and the warship was also drawn into it. The warship kept spinning in the vortex and was swallowed up mercilessly. The naval soldiers controlled the warship and wanted to escape, but they seemed powerless and insignificant in the face of the huge force. Don't panic, hold on to everything around you. As the clouds rolled, Jinan's voice came from the sky. Suddenly, the clouds were torn apart by a huge claw, and a huge beast rose into the air from the clouds. Its body was extremely huge, and its skin was bright green, as if it came from an ancient myth. This giant beast carried an incomparably powerful aura, as if it was the incarnation of heaven and earth. Its eyes were as bright as meteors, revealing unparalleled majesty and power. Its huge body stood in the air, blocking the moonlight and casting a silent shadow, as if it were a god on the sea. Jinan's body turned into a green dragon, looking down at everything. His body stood straight above the sky, with green light flashing in the dragon's eyes. A powerful aura emanated from the dragon's body. His dragon tail swung, stirring up strong winds and huge waves. His dragon claws tightly grasped the void, as if controlling everything. Blue dragon fruit. Kuzan looked up at the sky and murmured, "This is the first time I see Colonel Jinan using the power of the fruit. I didn't expect it to be like this." The expressions of the naval soldiers changed from astonishment to surprise as they saw their warships break free from the vortex. We flew. The warship was enveloped in a cloud of flames. Under the protection of the flaming cloud, they took off and flew into the sky. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.